Welcome back to the home studio and welcome to episode 65 of the Stevie Richards Show. Today, we're going to talk about the best there was, the best there is, and the best there ever will be. James's man crush, Bret, the Hitman Hart. My God, I sound like Vince McMahon there.
Bret's always right. I've decided. Bret was always my favorite. Who were your favorites growing up?
My favorite was, well, obviously Hulk Hogan. You watch that, you become a wrestling fan. But obviously, I was more partial to the NWA, which was before WCW was WCW. It was the NWA, so I loved Flair, Magnum, Dusty, hated Nikita and Ivan, Paul Jones's Army. Like I said, the first exposure to NWA was Channel 17 in Philadelphia, that syndicated stuff we discussed last week, and seeing Paul Jones's Army attack, who I didn't know anybody, by the way. Who are these people attacking this guy who's clapping and dancing? And then, that was during the thing where I started to look back, and all of a sudden Pistol Pez Watley becomes Shasta Watley or Shaska Watley. And I'm like, this is wild. You know what I mean? It was like unlike anything. This to me was the double murder hour, not the original murder hour that you watched during that time with Challenge and Superstars. What about you? What did you grow up watching?
It's legally mandated that the Bulldog has to be my favorite. So he's always going to be my favorite in this region. Bret's always going to be second and probably Savage third.
He hates you now. That's over. Nope.
Okay, he's my favorite living wrestler. We can give him that. But no, it's written in tablet that if you're from the Manchester area, the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, is your favorite.
Did you say before? Yeah, did you say before that he has a street named after him?
No, they were trying to. I think their family, Bulldog's family, are trying to get like Wigan's got like some sort of like kind of wall of fame kind of thing. And I looked at that wall of fame. I'd only heard of two of them. There's like wall of, like one of them was like the first female doctor in the area or something like that. It's really tenuous. And the Bulldog, I think they've got a thing where they say nobody dead can be on it, which is kind of ridiculous because, like, what, are you going to take names off when people die?
Well, isn't most of why you name a street after somebody, it's posthumously, it's usually in honor of them after they're gone?
Yeah, kind of thing. It's not naming a street, but it's like a wall of fame or hall of fame or walk of fame kind of thing. More than that, but I know, I think his daughter keeps, attempting to, pester the council to get them to change their mind. But yeah, he's basically like the second or third most famous person from that area, I think. And it's a shame that he's not included. And I don't think somebody else who's not included is really famous as well. And name escapes me, but he played the banjo or the mandolin or something like that. But he was a comedian.
Well, I was going to say, is like, well, beer needs food, make that wall before the British Bulldog will, because I think he's from that area.
It may well do. I can't remember his name. It's not Arthur Askey. Maybe it's Arthur Askey, but it's not When I'm Cleaning Windows, that one. For the UK crowd, anyway, they'll know that. All right, Bret Hart today.
Yeah, I do want to get a correction through because you know how I'm OCD about these things. And it's something that has nothing to do with wrestling, but of course people cherry pick, and I'm sure they have. I had misidentified Brian Alvarez's microphone. He did use something akin to a Neumann U87. On the more recent clips that we watched, because we reacted to Dave Meltzer and we reacted to a couple of recent clips, he has the Electro Voice RE20, the beige model, the old one, because I was going to buy the black RE20 to replace the pod mic, because I always think my voice sounds terrible. But that is the correction right there, at least in my geeky, nerdy world.
Who emailed you to tell you that?
Nobody.
Or did no one message you?
No, I watched it afterwards. I was like, I want to make sure. And then I remember, it was RE20. No, it bugged me all week. Nobody ever has to tell me, Stevie, you have to be obsessed about microphones and audio video equipment and technology. And I think James and Chris know by now that will never end.
Yeah, I'm going to change my number sooner or later, I think. I
love you too, James.
All right, let's do the intro. PWT's Pro Wrestling Tees. The Stevie Richards Show is available there with a Stevie Richards Show official merchandise about the show, and also, of course, the Blue World Order BWO original T-shirt available there as well. Link is in the description. Fitness, Stevie Richards Fitness is on YouTube as well. I encourage you all to go there as well. The Cameo Stevie Richards cameo, one of the most popular cameos on the entire platform, not just on wrestling, and it's because people keep writing to him and paying money to do Tony Gurria impressions and go, aha, apparently.
I do a little bit more than that, but I'll tell you about one of my favorite ones, which was just fulfilled yesterday. A person named Richard, they have all these mods for WCW NWO Revenge, the N64 game. I still think it's right up there. We did a video game episode and probably will do another one in the future. And Richard was asking about like who I usually picked, who I like to pick. And I said, you know how I think. I'm like, all right, how can I, make the most out of this? So I'm talking to him and it's in portrait mode. I fire up the Steam Deck. I have WCW NWO Revenge and I pick Eddie Guerrero, who I always picked Eddie because after he won, if I won with the Frog Splash, even back then, this was amazing that they would just keep playing his music after the win and do like 100 different camera angles of the Frog Splash. Remember that? They would go on forever and they would just randomly, and you would wait to see when's the shot of the POV from the person laying there and Eddie splash on. When's it going to go from the nosebleeds or from the the entranceway? And I played it for like 5 to 7 minutes and commentated about what I liked about the game. So I put it was probably my most fun cameo to date.
Oh, do you know that there's, I think the Vault, I don't know if it's the WCW Vault YouTube channel, released footage of Eddie Guerrero just with the blue background behind him, and he was just holding the poses for the WCW
Be
Nitro
baby
game
face,
or whatever.
Smile, do this, and he's changing. Yeah, it's about 1 minute and 40 seconds. It's uncomfortable for him, and you can tell, like, do this, do that, and he's just like, what? He ran out of poses after about the first 30 seconds.
And of course, there is the Stevie Richards Show Patreon as well. And I was trying to think how many, every single time I check, there seems to be dozens more people signing up every week. So everybody, thank you so much for doing so. And what have we watched this Monday just gone? And I know what we are watching for next Monday because we're watching Bret Hart versus Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10. But what has been on this Monday just gone?
That was Bob Holly versus myself. This was the match that was the beginning of the end. This began my 7-month sabbatical. That was involuntary. But yeah, one of my favorite matches from Velocity. We had a 2-week series on Velocity. The first week I wore the BWO gear. I already talked about Vince not liking that. And then next week I had the pink trunks. And Bob just did an excellent job selling. To remind people, this was the match that Vince McMahon showed in a talent meeting that he called because of this match. And then they wanted me to be squashed by Ken Kennedy. We did a clip about that. And you can see, well, I said 7 months off. So you know the finish of this, but for details, go back and look at the clips.
Absolutely. And once again, we're going to do a couple of weeks' worth of Bret Hart and Owen Hart if the current plan unfolds, essentially, because we don't know if there's ever going to be... There might just be another match, so we think, oh, man, we've got to watch it this week because someone sent it and we can't sort of ignore it. But we will also get to the Bret versus Owen SummerSlam rematch at SummerSlam 1994, the cage match with Escape the Cage rules only. And I've said it on the pre-show, I said it on the Patreon, I'll say it here, the best cage match that ever happened. I don't care how many Ric Flair cage matches you want to bring up, that's the best ever. Bret versus Owen. I
would have to agree with that. I would have to agree with, we're looking at that era of professional wrestling in general, and we're trying to nail it down, like about the production, the look, the feel, right down to the referees wearing the boxing referee attire rather than the striped polo shirts. And we're trying to figure out like why are we gravitating to this? I mean, I'm 53 going on 54, so obviously that's right in my wheelhouse. You're quite a bit younger, but you're still saying this would make me a super mega fan today if this was wrestling today. I mean, can you verbalize why you feel that? Because that ties right into why Bret is pretty much the best that ever did it.
It's because Bret Hart's better than anybody wrestling today. Owen Hart's better than anybody wrestling today. But I loved the production of SummerSlam because you know what? It appeals to kids. It's bright. It's colourful. The cage is colourful. I know it hurts horribly, that kind of thing. But, you know, I was 7 when that match happened, the SummerSlam thing. And just everything about you know the phrase, the first bite is with the eye. And that's what it is. It's just such an appealing, weirdly child-friendly product at that time. But also, you know, the technical wrestling and everything else was so sound for the people who were the best at it at that time as well. It takes me back. That's one of the few events that takes me back to being 7. And not even WrestleMania 10 doesn't, but SummerSlam does.
That's very odd because you were very hyper aware of kind of what you were enjoying at 7 years old in a way, where myself at 7, 8, 9, 10, didn't even know I wanted to be a wrestler, was watching your favorite Murder Hour and going, okay, guys are beating each other up. It wasn't like, it didn't really translate until I decided, wow, I really think I want to do this. And I started to dive deeper into it. But this here, I believe also 2025, and we'll give everybody context and laying foundation for the Bret Hart stuff, because we have to kind of talk about comparing it to the current product today. All we saw in that Bret, this is WrestleMania 10, New York City, Madison Square Garden. All we saw in that crowd was parents with children, parents with many children, adults on their own as well. But it was, even though there was a lot of, how should I say, big fight feel to it, an adult could enjoy it and watch this athleticism, it was a family gathering. It was a family event. And the pricing, which we're going to talk about either in dedicated or future episodes, they're pricing out like the pipeline of future generations of fans with these ticket prices.
I also note, I don't know when it changed, probably about 97, maybe 96, when the tone of the audience, the sound of the audience made changed. It wasn't as high-pitched anymore. There weren't as many mothers and children, screaming anymore for their favourites all the time. And I think that, and obviously, 97, 98, they were gearing towards a more adult audience. And I think as much as I love the Attitude Era, and when people go back and say it was overrated, well, you're wrong. The Attitude Era was amazing. There were some bad things in it, of course, but the Attitude Era itself was amazing. But something was lost.
It saved the company.
It turned their fortunes around forever, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time to be a fan. But something was lost. And I miss that age of innocence kind of thing, where it had something for everybody. Like, once again, that SummerSlam match had had everything for the kids. But the way that Owen and Bret worked, and there's other matches, Shawn and Diesel's on that same match, on that same card as well. Weirdly, I remember Jeff Jarrett and Mabel, and somehow Jeff Jarrett won cleanly. Wow. I think he won cleanly. Aha. Things like that. But it was just such an appealing looking product. And I know the business was down at that point, but as a kid watching it, I loved it. And I had all the tapes from 91 and 92 as well. I just that middling weird era where everything was changing. It was great.
Well, let me make one more statement and then we can go right into Bret, because this is a great segue for that. Without those years there, with Bret on top and the wholesome years, I guess you would call it, where family friendly but still very intense, big fight feel type stuff, all that was laying the groundwork for the Bret heel character during the Attitude Era. If that never happened, and even the down point for Bret to stick to his belief system about what he thought wrestling should be, we would never get that. And on top of that, we literally got dual heel babyface interactions, whether you're in the US or Canada or the other, between him and Shawn. You needed those years of that to get the Attitude Era.
If you go from SummerSlam 94 and then look at SummerSlam 97, you will ask yourself, if you just put them side by side, what they changed with the lighting. In 97, the shot looks murkier. Everything's more black. Everything's more black and red.
It looks like a lower resolution. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is weird. I don't know why it looks so much more crisp years earlier. I don't get it, but it's why I love that era. Like 95 looks really crisp, and then somewhere in 96, 97, something changes. Whether it's the lighting, whether it's the technical equipment, whether it's the color grade. Color grade on the fly. I understand that, but something's completely changed. Where I don't know if that was a conscious decision to try and get away from the child-friendly formula or the appearance of, and I don't know how much Nitro had to do, because ultimately I still say Nitro got it best with that mix of
industrial but
still vibrant.
Look,
yeah, but still vibrant as well. But I love the Raw as War industrial look as well. Here's one fun fact for you, or see if you know. For 1 week only, when it changed to Raw as War in 2 hours, what was the theme song for it for 1 week?
Was that the one where everybody charged the cage to get up to the roof and fight? There was one episode.
95. That was 95 when they did the roof on WWF HQ.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I think it was The Beautiful People, Marilyn Manson. They had it for 1 week.
Oh, that's right. And then they switched it to SmackDown later when he went to SmackDown.
Yeah.
Not right away.
They kept it for
that
1
was
week.
The first theme. That was the first theme for SmackDown.
Yeah, and then like they had this weird theme in 95 where it's like, dun, 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 you know, like a really, really low-key sort of, you know, music that builds up, you know, with a helicopter coming across the, you know, the moon.
Oh, the one they stole like Shutterstock footage for the Rock entrance when he was.
Yeah.
I remember on the opening of Raw's War that they had, you know, at the beginning and the end with all the kind of Matrix binary, and I was on the opening right at the end, and that lasted a week because our good buddy had that taken down.
Oh, which of our good buddies trips?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What? Right. Okay. What? Right. So
you can't be a top heel when Triple H is a heel.
Okay, right. We can't gloss over that. It can't be the end of the story. So, you are in the Raw is War opening package for a week.
Like that with the shirt and tie for like 1 week, maybe 2 weeks.
How'd you know it's Triple H?
Because someone told me.
Did someone tell you? Was it like a writer type or?
Production.
Hey, well, there you go. We're going to be talking.
I thought that would be a great segue for our first segment here.
It's a perfect segment. Bret Hart. So we're going to be talking about Bret Hart for the majority of the show, of course, because this is analysing Bret Hart, his moves, and I guess his mindset in some ways as well. Bret Hart hates Triple H, which is weird because it's great that WWE keeps paying him and he keeps turning up.
I don't even hate Hunter. You know what I mean? We call it out, but I think it's funny now.
Bret Hart has been on a spoken word tour, I think, with Inside the Ropes in the UK, answering fan questions and whatnot. Anyway, the topic of Triple H came up, and Bret Hart called Paul Levesque, Triple H, a phony who never... Well, I'm going to give you the full quotes. And tell me when you want me to stop. I'm not sure where I stand with Triple H. Just being honest, I never rated him. Everything he's done and created, it's all stuff he wrote out for himself. I wish I could have sat back in 1992 and said, this is what I'm going to do for the next 10 years. I'm going to win every title, and I'm going to be champion 55 times or 500 times. I think Triple H is a phony in the sense that he's never earned it and he never deserved it. He married the boss's daughter. There's a few more things he adds there. Okay, then, is Triple H a phony?
Yes, 100%. What Bret's saying is what every worker's thinking at this time and past this time, up until the point where Triple H was unofficially the boss and then groomed to be officially the boss and then officially the boss. But as a worker, but what he's saying, take out all the thing about marrying the boss's daughter and all that stuff. Think about this. And this is a top guy issue a lot of times. Like I said last week, some of the top guys, like top football players, make terrible NFL coaches. In other words, they know how they can play, they know how they can get over, they know how they are going to read defenses, whatever analogy you want to use. Hunter and other people are proving that top guys aren't always the best bookers and aren't always, in fact, good bookers. You need outside influences. People can write. This is really a situation that maybe not in 2022 to 2024, where it was like the honeymoon phase of the Triple H era, but it is coming up really quick that he's been exposed as really not being the best to book other talent. They can get themselves over all day long. So what he's saying is right. Hunter can always book himself, get himself over, book himself to win the titles, but when it comes to this era of wrestlers, it's falling short. I don't know if it's TKO that's handing down these, we need these, we don't need these, and Hunter's just a puppet that's basically doing their will. But in a way, you think about it, and it's telling that whenever the heat really turns up on Hunter, what does he do? Go back to NXT to get that pop and get the confirmation bias that he's the best.
You, I guess, met Triple H. I don't know if you met him in 97 when you were with the WWF briefly, but you joined the WWF in the summer of 1999. So you'll have met Triple H at least before he was dating Stephanie McMahon. So can you tell me if there was any difference in that kind of year in the demeanor of Triple H? I mean, did he act any different after he was sort of, maybe not figured in the office, but he was fairly bulletproof at that point after Vince had approved the relationship, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, at first when I met him, it was like, hey, man, and that's it. You know what I mean? Hello and goodbye on both our parts. I don't even think I was on his radar until the right to censor. That's when I say, do not be a heel or try to be a top heel when Triple H is a heel. Make him a babyface and make him want to work with you. You're still gonna eventually get in the ring as Spirit Squad or whatever, as here comes the tank and the army and the pyro. And you're like, well, I think people know who's going over in this match. So yeah, I mean, but to worry, I said it before, let's not mix it up as far as personality, as far as the way Triple H is as a person, as a worker, as a shark in the locker room. He's still one of the safest and best workers out there that you want to work with. Cornette says he doesn't draw money. He works with the guy who draws money. It's kind of his spot with Taker, Austin, and Rocky, mostly in that top 5. But I would work him just like Flair. Whatever personal differences, I trust that guy in the ring. I trust the Ric Flair in the ring. And you know you're going to be safe and you're not going to be hurt. Hunter would finish the match with a torn quad. He tore his quad, and he still allowed Jericho to put him in the walls of Jericho. You can't ignore those little things there.
Speaking of Chris Jericho, he got to the WWF in 99, and Triple H immediately started acting like his friend and then gave him his telephone number, which was just a fake number.
Really?
Like, why? Yeah, he gave him the old dummy phone number.
Well, what did he... I mean, is that just like a rib? And Jericho's still in the locker room. It's not like just somebody in passing, here's my number, and then they try to call it, but you don't see them the next week.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about.
Hey, you got to give it to Al Snow. At least he put Val Venus's real number on Raw that one time to look for Pepper.
He did that. He did that indeed. The thing is, but there's other things, in 2000 as well, him and Rock, I guess, kind of got along on a professional level, but argued a lot kind of as well. That'd be a great one, Triple H and The Rock as a comparison for the future. We should do an entire thing on both of those. But there was also, like, the Kurt Angle thing, where he completely killed one of the best storylines of 2000, because he genuinely, in his heart of hearts, believed that Stephanie would not pick Kurt Angle in real life over himself. So therefore, he killed that whole Stephanie-Kurt love triangle storyline.
Well, let's kind of pile on that point, and how Jericho won the undisputed title, and they made it all about serving Stephanie as they were going that was WrestleMania 18, the match that followed Hogan and Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephanie was the focal point of all this, correct?
Right, it was Stephanie, then Triple H, then their bulldog Lucy, and then somewhere way at bottom is Chris Jericho, as far as importance in that story.
Who happened to be like the first undisputed champion in history.
Yes. He put on a lot of weight. Did you notice that? Like, I don't know if someone got in his ear saying you need to look like a heavyweight. He packed on the weight really, like, hugely in like a couple of months.
It might have been him.
At that point, Jericho.
It might have been him to say that I'm now at this level with Rocky, Hunter, Austin, Taker, and after all that, and especially in that match, it was actually the right call to surprise finish everybody, because everybody assumed Jericho was not going to win. Who was he in there with? Rocky and Austin, correct?
Rock, Austin, Kurt. So
a 4-way with Kurt or Jericho would have been a good choice.
It was a 4-person tournament. It was a 4-person tournament.
Yeah. So think about that. I mean, that's a pretty. I would say Chris was like, I'm dealing with the big sharks now. I need to put on some size and look like a heavyweight champion.
Well, let's get back to the Bret Hart quotes. Let me just say this. I wish Triple H had been in the dressing room during the Montreal Screwjob, basically. I wish that it had happened. I wish he was in the dressing room, because he might not be married to Stephanie anymore, or it might not have ever happened. There was so much anger, and Triple H was such a slimeball back in 1997. He was a guy that I had very little respect for. And we'll go one more. I never rated him. you guys tell me, there's not one match I ever watched of Triple H's with anybody that I ever thought like, oh, that's a great match. I never wanted to wrestle him. I always look at every wrestler and go, I could do this with that guy, and I could do this with that guy. But with Triple H, it was always just a match. Nothing special ever came to mind. So calling into question, I guess, I don't know Triple H's ability to put on an exciting match, but can you name a great Triple H match?
Oh, he had a solid match with Brock at WrestleMania.
Cactus Jack.
Cactus Jack, where he got the puncture, and that's where we all discovered he was with Stephanie, that he got the puncture getting backdropped into the pallet. I mean, you're talking about like with him and Mick and everything they did as Mankind, it was really heavy stuff, but I would still put it on Mick to bring up the level of excitement by taking those big bumps for Hunter. You know, Hunter would take his bumps, but it was more about punishing Mick and getting sympathy on him. Like I said, once again, Hunter's a great person to work with somebody that draws money. And like I said with Hunter before, after he really did get in charge, what do we get? The throne, the sledgehammer, the Terminator entrance, the Lemmy introduction with the King of Kings and all that stuff. He is basically what every wrestler hopes to be. Mostly smoke and mirrors, mostly presentation, entrance, music, and that will carry you through the whole match. He had the benefit of picking what I would come out to the Star Blazers music with the big Starship Yamato or anything. And everybody like, what in the world is this? But it's for me. And he's a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. So here comes the Terminator. He did Conan before. He did it. He does anything he wants of these. And, give him a ton of pyro, ton of lighting. Have him and Stephanie come out on the trike, which I still laugh about if you're a motorcycle guy. I'm not. I would ride on. You give me 4 wheels on the motorcycle. But, yeah, I mean, I'll go back to this thing, too. One of the most telling Triple H things, and it had to be uncomfortable for him because he knew about the Montreal Screwjob previous to that night. Him and Shawn knew. They were communicating with Vince, or Shawn was, and letting Hunter know. That thing with Bret's ex-wife, reading him the riot act and him the head down, I had no idea. It was so...
He knew.
Oh, you could feel the lie coming out of him, So I think that's what kind of Bret is talking about, is like, you're literally lying to my wife at the time. You're a snake. But then again, let's. I'm sorry, I'll make you mad. Bret wanting to think that he was going to show up on Nitro and surrender the title or come on Raw and then go to WCW without Bischoff trying to get that belt on Nitro. Bischoff would have tried and I would too if I was Bischoff. No, come bring it. There would have been another trash can like with Medusa, my good friend, my new friend Medusa.
I think there's misconceptions about that. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what Bret would have done or what Eric could have done, because there is no way, not a chance. We'll talk about that later.
Bret would not have done it. Bret would have, I don't believe...
Eric wouldn't have done it. Eric wouldn't have done it, and I'll tell you why now. It's because they were already embroiled in a lawsuit with the WWF over the Medusa thing. They would have never, ever had another... after the Ultimo Dragon as well, and that light heavyweight championship that everyone forgot. But after the Medusa thing, after the Medusa thing, they would have never done it. Not a chance. They would have cost themselves millions.
You know what? I would agree with you. The Medusa thing they sued for just because it was just like, we're going to sue. It did mean a little something, and not to throw shade on that women's title or Medusa, but in relation, if you take the championship, and I'm not saying, I said Bret would not do that. Bret had too much pride, and that title meant something to him. So it meant something to him and his legacy. But if somehow, some way, Bischoff had the belt, threw it in the trash or whatever, you have a really good case for a lot of punitive damages for a lawsuit. That's a slam dunk win, because you're really hurting the brand and the identity and everything. You throw that in there, WCW might as well say they won the war. Mm-hmm. I just feel like that right there, even just the 1% chance that somehow Bret leaves the company as champion or never loses it to put somebody else over, that didn't need to happen. I mean, and by the way, it ushered in the best era of their business. And once again, that incident kind of was the beginning of saving the company.
Okay, let's wrap this up then with Bret and Triple H first. Or in fact, I'm actually going to add this. So MVP also recently doubled down on comments that he felt that he had zero respect for the way that Triple H treated him in the Hurt Business personally and professionally. And now I'm wondering, because obviously you talk about Hunter. I mean, you always put in an addendum and say, no matter how I feel, he was this, this, and this. So, I know you feel a way about him, as a lot of people do, but do you think people are feeling more safe now in 2025 to admit their true feelings on Hunter or Paul Levesque? However, because he's sort of gone through that grace period when he took over WWE Creative. 2023 was great, 2024 was great, 2025 has sort of just faltered creatively speaking and presentation speaking. They're still selling, huge amount of tickets and making more money than ever. I'm not sure how long that can continue. But that said, do you think a lot of people are going to be coming out the woodwork to basically bury Triple H? Now they feel that the public tide of opinion is going against Triple H now.
Yeah, I think it's a lot cooler to say something about Hunter now since the fans are starting to pile on him. Now, like I said, we try our best to be objective. I talked about personal feelings, but I also give credit where credit is due as far as him as a worker and really being a student. He got the name the game because he said, I'm a student of the game, and now I am the game.
He didn't get that. He didn't get that name for that. Do you know who the original game was meant to be?
Who?
Owen Hart.
Really?
He was originally going to be the game. Then he died, and then Triple H, being the player of the game, he took the nickname for himself. It was going to be Owen.
No,
so there you go.
I did not know that. I'm just saying the locker room interview with JR is where that name was birthed for him. The second birth of it.
Ask Russo that, because it might have been Russo who came up with that name. But ask him.
Yeah, he might have wrote that promo or wrote with Triple H, or they worked together on bullet points. But I'm saying that's when Triple H that's when he started driving home the point about being the game.
Yeah. No, I'm saying that Russo may have come up with that for Owen, because I think he was just, when the Blue Blazer thing was going to be done with, he was just going to turn into a serious wrestler again for the third time in 18 months. Yeah. But I believe I'm right in saying. But yeah, if you could confirm with Vince, I'd like to know.
All right, just if you could make a note next episode or whatever, we'll kind of like in the beginning talk about that and confirm or amend what we said. Right now it's super fashionable to get on Hunter. I still, like I said, being objective, looking at it as it is. 2022 was great. 2023, even 24. 25 has been kind of a disaster from a business and a creative standpoint. Honeymoon period's over, but I would still challenge the fact that what changed? Is it a TKO Rock thing, butting heads with Triple H, and now things seemingly end, seemingly pivot back? Do you see what I mean? What percentage of blame should be on Hunter, and what percentage of blame should be on The Rock and TKO? We have obviously an internal power struggle way back to when Cody got bumped from WrestleMania and then brought back in. So and it turned out to be like one of the best Royal Rumbles to WrestleMania runs that I can remember, with one of the best finishes of any WrestleMania in history. So what I'm saying is we really have to be objective with spreading the blame and not just, it's cool to hate this dude.
Well, I mean, it's funny because we're going to talk about Montreal, but people sort of argue, well, it had to be fixed because look at all these wonderful things that came out of the Montreal Screwjob. Well, guess what? People adapted on the fly and made it fantastic. But it's the same as Cody and The Rock and everything like that. That was all adapted on the fly due to power struggles, and against all odds, it worked out better than it could have been with the original plan. I think it's the kind of thing you can't, or would be very difficult to script, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Isn't it the best wrestling, though?
Outcome.
That's the way booking, that's the way Paulie used to book in ECW. That's the way really, I'm sure Dutch talked about that. Let's survey the environment, the situation, something crazy happened. I mean, even in Memphis, what was it like? Bill Dundee was involved in trying to stab somebody or do something, and they turn into an angle on TV. You have to run with some stuff that happens, or the fluidity of what's going on is what makes it interesting week to week. Hey, we don't even know what's going to happen this week, and the fans won't. It's become way too predictable. That was the first time WWE in many, many years turned around and said, maybe Daniel Bryan was the only last time in recent memory, but, we just got to go with the flow with this. And when they did that and let it go and let it just take on a life of its own, they got one of the best WrestleMania seasons they could ever hope for.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, just so you know, when Dutch was booking in Puerto Rico during his sort of a record-breaking run down there, he didn't figure out what he was going to do until he got to the building that day. He was, do that, and the other.
Yeah,
I thought about it.
You got a match, and you got a match. We got a card. Mix them together. But guess what? That's how we didn't know what the matches were going to be till Paulie got there.
Yeah,
sometimes that's
great. For the most part.
It's great to have a naturally organic reaction, that really great nervousness of like, okay, the pressure's on. I got to put together a match, or we got to go out there and do it, rather than these 5-6 hour rehearsals where you get all the good takes and they're on TV or pay-per-view. It gets messed up.
Right, let's move on then. This is what I'm looking forward to. It is the 5 moves of doom of Bret Hart. Can you name them off the top of your head without looking?
Without looking, I would say Russian leg sweep. And then some of these are combo moves. Russian leg sweep, pendulum backbreaker, pendulum elbow. That's 3. What else? If he's setting up for the sharpshooter, it's jumping on the leg in the ropes. Is that part of it?
No.
Bulldog out of the corner? Bulldog?
Nope.
Well, sharpshooter's one of them, so I'm missing one.
4.
I'm missing one.
The atomic
drop. Reverse atomic drop. That's what I'm saying. The combo of the reverse atomic drop, clothesline every time. Awesome. I knew we just watched the match, and I'm like, I was commentating on that reverse because he just snatched Owen out of Owen beating on him and hit him with that, and then the clothesline.
I'll tell you, people are begging for an atomic drop to come back from somebody who can give it and somebody who can sell it. Man, that's one of the moves that just died on the vine years ago that needs to make a comeback properly. All right, then. I've given you 5 sets of videos. Keep the sharpshooter one till last, obviously. But I've given you 5 sets of videos of at least 5 examples of every one of Bret's moves of doom. So, over to you, Stevie. Analyze the heck out of Bret Hart's 5 moves of doom.
All right, thank you very much, James. Here's your color palette right here, and right here. But there is an Easter egg. Leave a comment below. I'll give it in 3, 2, 1. A very young Scott Steiner right there. The Bret Hart's about to do the Russian leg sweep, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's take it right here. Oh, man, I can definitely... I mean, there's a bunch of these Russian leg sweeps, but I'm going to break it down. I'm going to maybe break each part of it down in each one of these clips. What I love, first of all, is that Bret usually leads off with a punch to the stomach that bends the person over to where, or he can do it straight up standing like this. But usually he'll punch them off the ropes. And then what I loved about it was, and there's different angles, I might go back to it, cupping under the chin. But you're essentially, what you're doing is with this arm, protecting the guy's head from hitting the mat. Then, of course, as we go further, Bret pushes the guy down, because guess what? Even if they don't kind of go with it, what you have is Bret's forearm is pushing them down and guiding them, giving them the cue for the bump. And let's not forget, this leg is literally hooking the inside of the knee and the calf of the left leg of his opponent right there. And I love that Scott Steiner is bracing himself for a bump. Like that hand there, he's going to push back and try to snap back with it. Perfect. Right there. There's the one. Usually the punch to the stomach is great because he does this, and then most guys and even girls will have somewhat of Hot Wheels feet. He's not in position. I got to turn him towards me. Bret goes around knowing too that the hard camera's right there. Comes back. See how another part of this right here that's awesome is grabbing the inside of the elbow, the inside of the left elbow, hooking that, hooking the chin, hooking the leg. Dude, he literally does all of those things at once, pause for a second, then snaps back. It's just so good. Here's him with Razor. Doesn't even matter. This is one of those moves, by the way, everybody. Doesn't matter how big anybody is. Razor's a big dude. Diesel's a big dude. Lots of big guys out there. And the Russian leg sweep, especially when he bends them down in this direction, hooks and does this, doesn't matter how tall they are or how heavy they are, it's a double back bump. So it's literally a move in 2025 that anybody can do to anybody if you think about it. Awesome, right? Was that King of the Ring? No, I don't think it was.
Royal Rumble 93, I think.
All right, here's him on Matt Bourne before he was Doink, right?
No. It's not Matt Bourne. I think it's like Dale Wolf or something. It's just
wow. He looks like Matt Bourne, doesn't he? So this is probably a great angle right here. Bret's literally looking where he's going to put his feet. See his eyes down there? So as we go slow motion, now you can see, I did like a 20, 25-minute video on the old Analysis channel just on the Russian leg sweep, it's going to come back here. If you want that here, a dedicated smartboard segment, we will definitely do it. We're kind of doing it now, but we have a new smartboard coming. All right, right there. Watch this. Grabs here, usually grabs the inside of the elbow. This time he has him by the wrist, but just right here to be able to kind of like hook that foot around. The guy's going to take a bump, and he's going to take a good flat bump, whether he likes it or not. He's going to be protected. Here it is right here. Slow-mo. Boom, right there. What else do we have?
I've got something to ask you before we play again. There's two things. One, holding the arm. So obviously, you've got one arm under the chin, but then Bret's holding his opponent's arm as well. Does that kind of discombobulate you at all as far as, taking a bump and hitting the mat with both arms kind of thing? Or is it just an easy bump to take?
It's super easy bump to take, and it's shared bump between the guy giving it, the guy getting it. Here's why Bret, my guess, because this is when I've done the Russian leg sweep, which I've sort of tried to maybe about in the 55% category, do it like Bret. But the reason why you grab the chin and the back of the head with that elbow, almost like a headlock, but with your right arm, is to protect the guy's head going back because you're going to snap him back. Also, what it's doing with the opposite arm, when you grab, usually it's on the inside of the elbow because that's where you get the most amount of control of the arm. Sometimes it'll be the wrist if you can't get it in time. But the reason why you do that, I want you to take a guess out there, James. Why do you grab that left arm and prevent it from moving?
So they don't elbow you in the face or something maybe on the way down.
Boom. Just, you don't see it, but everybody sees. It's so he doesn't hit him in the face. He doesn't hit him in the throat. He knows exactly where all the extremities are. Even hooking, we're going to show it with Owen right here. Right here. With Owen, it's literally steps in one, move back because they're brothers and probably done it a million times. But also having it hooked with the leg, like you just hooked it here. Having it hooked around, there's no body movement. There's nobody that's going to try to. Some people with Bret, say I wrestled Bret, I would have a temptation to overbump and oversell the bump. That's usually when you're flailing way too much. Bret's in total control, even with the leg and with both arms and your chin. Your outside arm's not going to hit anybody. That right arm's out here. That's the one where you could throw it back like a regular slapping your hand on the mat bump. But no, this is literally protecting the guy, but more so protecting Bret from taking a stray to the face or somewhere he doesn't want to. But yeah, the Owen one was perfect. That was WrestleMania 10, right?
Oh, yeah.
The gold and black ropes. Now, here's an example. Undertaker's almost a shoot 7 feet. He can bend him down. See? Doesn't matter how tall you are or anything. You can still do a Russian leg sweep. What I love, too, it's a little Easter egg. Did you notice he hooks? When he goes back, they both throw their legs back at the same time. That's perfect. That's more perfect than Mr. Perfect. That's very perfect. So let's do one more here. Yeah, same thing. Diesel, right up there with Taker. Look at what he does. It never changes. There, you see him grabbing the inside of the elbow right there? Especially with taller guys with longer arms, you better grip it in because they may not mean to, but they're so big. Let's do a slow-mo here. Chin. This part here, I don't know why. Hopefully people appreciate it like we do. That stop-start kind of Russian leg sweep move is so good. Just gives me enough time to know he's going to do it, and he goes back with it. So excited. I dropped my pencil. There we go. Now with Diesel, he sort of couldn't hook, or he didn't hook. He hooked enough, but usually that toe goes around the back of the knee. And I've had the Cobra Clutch, the general anesthesia in TNA on Nash, and it was so funny because I didn't say when they got the camera, you saw me struggling. The minute I tried to put her on him, I had the epiphany, not that he's standing in front of me. Kevin Nash is on his knees. I'm trying to put him in a Cobra Clutch. And I finally discovered the full scope of just how massive this dude is. Thank God he was getting out of it. I couldn't get him in it. So for Bret to do this as tight as he did it, that's pretty awesome. Oh, here's your buddy here.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Now, this is where it's a prime example. Bret doesn't care for Triple H. He seemingly never did, never excited about the matches or anything. But do you see Bret in this move particularly doing anything to half measured or not really caring? He still took great pride in protecting his opponent, no matter the personal feelings. Shawn's a great example of that. He was still professional. He never hurt Shawn. And with Hunter here, because a lot of guys will equate personal feelings to how professional they will be in the ring. And I have to kind of put Hunter in that category. He will still be professional. I mean, you'll get buried, you'll get pedigreed on the floor or something, but you'll be stretchered out, but you'll have a decent match.
I've got one more thing I wanted to ask you. I think the great thing about a Russian leg sweep is that there can't really be many timing issues because Bret is in control the entire time from the start to the end. And it's not like a vertical suplex where, you both have to jump at the same time or something
exactly.
like that. Or
there's no basing anything. It's just literally stand still, let Bret hook you in the ways he's hooking you like right here. And then literally, I said this before, I think during the previous channel when I did this particular breakdown, Bret could give this to you, James, and you wouldn't get hurt. You get the wind knocked out of you because you never took a bump. He could do this to a child at a Saturday afternoon wrestling school birthday party, and the child would not get hurt. By the way, we don't try this at home or birthday parties, but it's one of those moves where you're literally just taking the ride. You're along for the ride as Bret takes you for it. Yeah, this is probably the one move I can see, if it's done right, which Bret does it to perfection. If it's done right, the person taking it literally almost doesn't even know how to take a bump, will still be fine.
So next up, what have we got?
All right, so next is probably James's favorite move of all time that you said should make a comeback properly in 2025, and it's a combination move that I've always loved from Bret. We watched it in the WrestleMania 10 versus Owen, and I'm sure in SummerSlam it will make a reappearance. The reverse atomic drop into the Bret Hart clothesline, which is amazing. So here we go right here. Once again, a young, full of hair Scott Steiner right here. Boom. Now, the camera cut is really good, but you don't need it when Bret does it most times, He just does a great job with it. And here comes the clothesline. Oh, that was a little different. With Owen, he hit him and fell forward. This is the heart attack clothesline he hit him with when he teamed up with Neidhart, right? He usually doesn't.
Yeah, it's like the heart attack one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Maybe his tailbone started to feel it because with Owen, he started doing the ones where he would dive with the clothesline after the atomic drop. Oh, Razor used to sell his atomic drop probably the best out of anybody.
This is interesting. The way he turns around for the clothesline, he's almost out of time, but it makes it look better. But play this all the way through.
Because he's not. I know the way Razor thinks. He's trying not to just wait to get close. I'm looking straight at you, whether you drop me between my legs or whatever, drop between my legs and atomic drop me. I still see it coming. It's not enough, but if it looks after kind of turning around selling out of nowhere. I can see where he's coming with that. Excellent atomic drop. Ooh, just barely got around. You're right. But this is the way Bret used to throw it, like from time to time. Maybe because Razor's positioning, his feet would hit the ropes. He'd probably go through the ropes a little bit, doing it like the heart attack clothesline. But yeah, I'm with you. Oh, this is probably the best one. That's right there is a lost art, by the way. I don't know why guys, because all you're being is dropped on top of the thigh. Not their knee isn't going between your legs, and you're not getting hit like there in the front part down there. But you didn't see that. I did the X chop. We have the smart board up for James. But think about it. All you have to do is do like a half a squat into his thigh. Owen does it the best out of anybody. Usually people, like even the Scott Steiner one, he was kind of still standing up and there was space. With Owen though, watch. No space. And then here comes the clothesline. Ooh, that was just a clothesline from hell right there. He really, that's what I'm saying. People who love each other hit each other even harder. He took his head off with that. Oh, Piper, that's a match we got to watch too. Him and Piper had a great match. WrestleMania 8 at the Hoosier Dome, correct?
Yep, 92.
Ooh, Piper took it really well. Piper's never been known to be like the most sound worker or wrestler, you know, but he's deceptively underrated by people because his promos were so great. Piper could still work.
He could, but I think the knock on Piper, not that it's a knock really, is that you either worked Piper's style of brawling match or you had a bad match. And this is kind of the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about it. All right, I'm going to stop real quick. Think about what Piper had to deal with and who Piper wanted to work with in the 80s. Hulk Hogan. So he's working Hogan's style, trying to be at all the top guys were not technical workers. They were all big, monstrous brawlers. Savage was the only one that was, when Savage came along, he was the anomaly that he broke into the top because it was not the style that the top heavyweights worked. How do you feel about that? What say you?
Just wonderful. What say you? Well, okay, I'm thinking, right, so he came back in 89, I think. And in the early 90s, 1991, 92, you were getting more of the Bret-size guys and the Kurt Hennig-size guys. Right? Yeah, basically. Well, I mean, no, the steroid scandal was brewing in 91, getting worse in 92, but there were more people who could go in 1991, 92 than there were in 87. Or probably more like 88, I guess.
So you're talking Shawn, Bret, and Perfect were at the top of that list of changing the perception of a top guy.
Yeah, and Savage was the sort of bridge, I guess.
Yeah, Savage
the 80s rock
way ahead of his time. Can you imagine Randy Savage in today's WWE?
He'd be the man. How many times have I said this about Bret? Same with Savage. If Savage was in 2025, he would be hands down the best wrestler all round by far. Nobody holds a candle to Savage today. Not a chance. He
would literally like make Roman Reigns' 3-year reign look like a short time. You wouldn't know who could, unless Bret came out of retirement to wrestle him and beat him. Like it's a very tough. Cena might be the one with Savage, but it's a whole different style and pacing and gears with Savage that's why him and Steamboat stood out at WrestleMania 3 because it was so different than anything. And they went for the entire bell to bell. I know they wrote it down, rehearsed it, but
I was going to say he was ahead of his time. He planned everything in advance.
Yeah, he would have made a great agent today.
Yeah.
Aha. All right, let's go here with the Piper one. Let's go in slow-mo. He took a great one. Piper might have taken the best one we've seen so far. Hunter, he took a great one. Let's stood up a little bit. I noticed that too as we go to the Hunter one and we just seen it. Bret started to work more of a, like even with clotheslines, like a big guy clothesline style. You notice that? I wonder if his back and that lower part of his spine really started to hurt from years and years because he wasn't landing completely flat every time on that heart attack clothesline. And we're talking about the WrestleMania 3 Formica ring. So your tailbone, when I did my side slam on that ECW show, it took me back. I bruised my tailbone in that match against Guido at the Manhattan Center.
Mm-hmm.
It was it's a tough ring to work. So I think he was trying to just protect himself from hurting his lower back anymore.
What have we got next?
All right, this is another video I did on the last channel. Once again, I want to do it again. It doesn't ever get all breaking down the same Bret Hart moves. You always notice an Easter egg here or something different. And as well, you watch the current product and you want to go back and watch this. And now watching the current product will be even more painful after this. But it's the pendulum backbreaker, which is amazing right here. Hey, to Savage. We should do a watch along on him and Savage in this match. It's
the Slamboree match in particular, yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, let's pick the best match they had because I think I could tell the tale right there.
Well, there's one on Saturday.
God, he beats the hell out of Scott Steiner during these segments. He's going to be so
Dude,
mad at me.
I didn't get like 40 matches.
Dude,
what can I tell you?
I'm going to get a text from Scott. God, I don't want to make that guy
you know,
mad.
you said this young up-and-comer, Scott Steiner, he was probably like an 8-year veteran at that point.
Well, compared to what he turned into, this makes he looks like a baby. It's crazy. Look at this. The funny part is some people are naturally heavy in that position. You notice that? And Bret can still power up Steiner. Look. Boom. And of course, after this is the next move, which will be the second rope elbow. That's what he usually followed this with. Here's Razor. All right. So what I talk about here is this requires a little bit level of cooperation by the guy taking it. You can see Razor is holding himself up into the position for the backbreaker. It's not just like he can pick you up. The way that makes it really good, and I've tried to do this off side slams and backbreakers that I took, when the guy grabs you, you see how Razor is gripping Bret as well? He comes up here.
Do you know, go a second before, because it's actually Bret who guides Scott's arm.
No, what he does, he throws the arm up over him because he's got to shoot in to grab the waist for the backbreaker, or the leg and the waist for the backbreaker. What I'm saying is, like, you know, there's got to be a jump here. Then what makes, for anybody that takes this kind of backbreaker or side slam, who thinks, why do I keep landing on the wrong part of my back? The key is to point the bottoms of your soles of your boots up into the ceiling. Try to get your feet pointed straight up in some way. Your back will level out, and then you can take the backbreaker. Do you see that? So he kicks it up right there. Same thing with Owen. Watch his legs. He goes way up. Now you can see from this angle, Bret's actually gripping his tights. You see that? He lost them a little bit. Usually you'll cup the hamstring or around the butt area and come up like that. Sometimes even the behind the hip, like grabbing that hip bone, but on the inside of this leg. And then you can see Owen probably and that's the other part if you're taking it. Bret lands on his knee, obviously, at a little lunge, but what's Owen do right here? Flat on your feet. Because if you don't do that, it's going to hurt you and it's going to hurt Bret. You know, because all that weight's coming down. So it's timed to where the foot lands, the feet land just about almost at the same time. Right there. Oh, Austin. See? Gripping here. And it really is standing up straight and then down from there.
So where are Bret's arms then? Are they under both thighs?
It depends on who it is. It could be under both legs, right? Like that's the way I would do my side slam. They'd come in and I would grip around the back, but sometimes it would slide down the thigh. But it's this leg, left arm on left leg. And then usually if it's not a big dude, you can wrap it around to where you're almost on their back, kind of slid down to the hip area, the back of the hip. Sometimes it's a glute. Sometimes you grab, but if the guy really has a good base for you, you can grab both legs and then drop them, but you have to grab them high on the legs. Say you grab towards the knees. You're going to be off center from the lower back. Then the guy's going to have more trouble putting the flat. You'll see it right here in slow-mo. See, Austin takes it. He doesn't even put his feet onto the mat. Because you go back to Owen, what does he do? Feet touch the mat, and then Bret bounces them off. It's almost like a split second where you're trying to get everybody to land together. Then Bret shoves them off to the side usually, see? Or just lets them go. Bret can also bring this leg back, get it out of the way, and you take like a mini back bump straight down off of that, which also looks awesome. But Austin just takes it. Watch. His legs or his feet never touch the mat. Ooh. All right, this is excellent right here. Shoot in, get the arm behind him, go to grab behind that hip, then he's going to grab that leg right there. Almost looks like a belly-to-back suplex, doesn't it? Because Diesel is
he's
so big.
He's putting himself in a headlock for the start, pretty much, isn't he?
Well, because what Diesel needs to do, what Kev needs to do, is tighten up and resist so we're both jumping up. It needs to be a really tight operation with this. See what I mean? He's headlocking Bret because he's so big. Usually he would just post on the shoulder or something. Usually his hand be right here.
My biggest worry with...
Oh, my God. Sorry.
My biggest worry about backbreaking somebody as big as Diesel, because at some point you have to be on one leg, and then, because he's doing... I mean, Bret's doing it fantastically.
Bret could blow his knee out, roll his ankle, he could get hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
That'd be my worry about doing it with someone so big. But is Bret almost jumping up and then sort of switching to a one-leg stance? Yeah, like
but that should be even worse because the Kev's feet aren't... The feet touching is the protection from too much impact on the right knee and right leg and the right ankle. Yeah, Bret's incredibly good. He's even better with this because he's jumping in midair, going into a lunge with a 300-pound dude, dropping him across one leg. There could be the hip, there could be the knee, you could throw your back out. There could be a ton of things that go wrong. He's just a tough dude. Here's the Piper one. See how he has right there? And he grabbed the tight. Bret was always a guy who grabbed the tights a lot. Did you notice that with certain moves? Grab right there. Perfect. Did you see how Piper's feet lands at the same time? Right there. That shows it right there. That's perfect. With his foot, his knee, Piper's feet landing, it's the minimum amount of real impact on Bret's leg right here. He's bleeding too. Oh, Savage. All right. Now Savage is grabbing both right here. Some people will reach around to the left shoulder. This is an early Bret Hart. This is when he still had the Jerry curl perm and everything. He wasn't growing out. But right here, this looks like he's almost losing Savage. He has it here. Yeah, that was a little, they got it, but you see what I mean? That's not deep enough. Savage is sort of hanging off his arm, where Savage should have had that half a headlock like Nash did to bring him up more. His feet are in a good position, but it's a little bit, it's real. Right there. All right, let's go to the elbow now. They usually, right here is where he'll give either the Russian leg sweep or the pendulum backbreaker. Usually it's the pendulum backbreaker into the elbow, correct? That's usually the part of the 5 moves of doom. Mm-hmm. So, oh wow, someone's way out there. Oh, that young rookie, Scott Steiner there. He's beating Scott Steiner. He's already dead from The Simpsons.
You don't need to qualify it's from The Simpsons. I know it's from The Simpsons.
That's for everybody out there. Now, this is unique because, all right, here's how good Bret is and how good everybody from there. He can still throw the elbow. The head doesn't have to be in that direction. In 2025, what would somebody do if they got up on the second rope to do an elbow and saw somebody with their head pointed this way?
the opponent would shuffle their way around to sort of be 90 degrees, I guess.
And if they wouldn't, they would jump down, turn them around, put them in place, and then do it. We saw that with, who did we just see that with? Bronson Reed did that a couple times before the splash. The dude was in position, or could have just shuffled a little bit in position. He had to turn them. And to me, that's a slight disconnect that you're not really trying to, quote, hurt the person. You're trying to protect them. Where it's just, I mean, you definitely want somebody in position to protect them, but if they have awareness, they know, okay, I'm about 10 degrees off. When he goes up and they have a camera on him, I'll shuffle a little bit over to that. Yeah, but this would be a 180 right here. Excellent. I love this camera angle. WrestleMania 10 once again. They don't do that camera angle at all anymore, do they? I don't remember seeing it.
Do you know they've just started again? They've started getting camera people up on the apron.
From behind when someone's on the ropes?
Yeah, but I saw this. I don't know if it was on SmackDown or WrestlePalooza or wherever it was, but there was a dude on the apron, but he was in the middle of the apron. And I think it might have been the girls. Yeah, it was Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky. And they were whipping into the ropes where the cameraman was.
Oh, God.
And it created a bit of an issue where they didn't want to bounce off the ropes.
Even back in the day, the cameraman had ring awareness. You know what I mean? Hey, I want to say right here, when you love somebody in wrestling and your family, you drop an elbow on their throat for real. You hit them even harder. Whoa, Bret. What kind of hero are you there, buddy?
This was Hart Foundation. This was...
Yeah, I know. This was definitely...
A wonderful time, once again, to be a wrestling fan.
Look, you can't get... I mean, it's there, but it's one of those hitting hard in safe places. He's not trying to go through him with it, but there's contact. And the roll through and everything. Just excellent. Oh, see, this means more to me than anything. Watch this. He did the before. This is what makes wrestling better. It's not the move. It's this. Bret doing that character-wise, drops the elbow, and look at his face. It is literally like, I mean, the thing is about to say something. It's like an FU face.
Oh, no, what he does is he gives the middle finger again. I just cut that out.
But what I'm saying is he is introducing, he's bringing the character or the fans into his character, interacting with them to get heat. And it's so unlike Bret Hart to do something so unwholesome as sticking up the middle finger. I'm not a big fan of just doing it to do it, but like I said, pun intended, the foundation that was set years and years and years leading up to this version of Bret Hart, it means something. It's not just, I'm a heel today. This is the real me. Then you turn babyface. This is the real me. No, it's not. I like after I say something, you just go,
I'm trying not to speak. It annoys myself when I interrupt you.
Oh, stop.
So I'm trying not to make any noise.
Yeah, well, please, you're protecting me from my own stupidity. So anyway, hey, not today, CTE. This is when he won the WWF title for the first time in Saskatoon against Ric Flair, which is a 2-part video on YouTube. And Bret thought he was going to get fired, and he thought that Vince flew his family in so he could fire him with his family. Am I wrong? I remember Bret saying
pretty
that.
much it. No, yeah. I love the bit where Kurt Hennig goes afterwards, after they lose, and they do a sort of a promo afterwards. Like, Saskatoon? Who ever heard of Saskatoon? It's great. Why did they never broadcast this match in full? Or unless it was like on VHS only or whatever. And they did the same with Savage, unless it was on prime time.
It was a Coliseum video after the fact, but I remember like just watching your Murder Hour show. I think it was Wrestling Challenge, and it was like open the show with the brand new WWF World Champion Bret Hart, and it was like, how did this happen? I mean, it was cool to see, but yeah, this match didn't really surface outside of Coliseum video till YouTube.
Yeah, they were doing this a lot. They did it with Ric Flair and Savage. They did it with the natural disasters. What? Why? Oh, all of a sudden, the natural disasters. They won it on a house show. But they didn't win it on a house show. They won it on a Superstars taping, and they never aired it.
That's
They just showed it. Bizarre. They were doing this in 92 a lot. I think it was to, I guess, get the house show, tickets sold more, maybe. Because 92, the business was in the toilet.
Anything can happen in the WWF type thing, right? Wherever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, you look at the cast of characters in 92. How could the business have been down?
I don't know. We're talking about it now, and then we're talking about they were possibly going out of business or almost out of business. Very, very strange. But nostalgia has a weird effect on people too. We're looking back on it. I want to say this is even better than the previous camera angle. It's literally shooting through the two ropes and showing where Bret is going to hit. There's just such a little touch to that means the world. I love this camera angle. Watch. It's pretty awesome. Oh, Yokozuna, man. You kind of stiff Yokozuna in the chest. How can you miss right there? That's a great count. Look at don't you miss that too? I don't feel like this happens a whole lot. I don't feel like we get like camera flashes throughout moves anymore.
Yeah, like the snooker cage match.
Like the fans.
It wouldn't have been the same.
But everybody has a camera now, but there's no flashes going off. Isn't that weird?
I mean, it's not weird because, like, camera phone technology is so great that it works in low light and you don't really need a flash.
I don't mean it like that, but for photos or whatever. I know a lot of people hold these up just to do video rather than photos and capturing the moment. But I don't know. I'm an old person. Boom. Nice. All right, so here's the fifth move of the 5 moves of doom, or should I say the 5 moves that should get you over, which is proof of Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Mr. Perfect, a bunch of other people. We're going to talk about the sharpshooter. Once again, the first WWF, no, I said WWEF, the WWE ECW world title. No, the WWF championship, Bret Hart's first championship win against Ric Flair. I love that. Look at that. I'm going to just show right here. There's still some struggle to it, or should I say even when he puts it on, I'll do it in slow motion. There is stink on here. Watch him. Like he's hooking right here to make sure, then cinching it up and turn it over. Look at that. You can't get out of it whether you want to or not. Very cool. Here's the other one. Against Savage. Now, Bret does it almost like a left-handed person would do, where you step through. Most people step through with the right. He steps through with the left. So as we go right here, step through, and I see people one, like, each leg. Bret's already like crisscrossing the legs into a clover leaf for the sharpshooter. So he's figure fouring the legs in one motion, almost crisscrossing them. It's really excellent. I love that look right there. Hooks in. Now with Bret, this hand comes underneath, so he could literally put the sharpshooter on in a way with that one hand if he wanted to. Turn over. And right there. Fans are... I'll have to say this. I don't know what it is, but during, like from, say, 97 on or 96 on with Nitro, there was something about this hard camera when the people got on their feet, the Goldberg stuff, other things. What was it about the way... In other words, WWE looks like it has maybe a lower angle of bleacher shot from the hard cam, where WCW looks like a really tall, like cascading bleacher, almost like a waterfall of people. Do you notice that? Mm. And when they get on their feet, it's a sea of people. Why do you think that is? What say you?
Well, it's a higher angle, I think. Even looking here, it just looks like a higher angle, so sort of the floor seats and the first tier sort of blend together more. But or maybe do you think they just put more seats on the floor so there's like less of a gap between the floor and the first tier?
It would appear so. Or the bleachers seem to be just, there's no space between the floor and the bleachers. But it just feels like so much more of an exciting moment when these fans on Nitro get on their feet or cheer for the finish. Oh, wait, this is unique. He's going to do like a fish out of water and a sharpshooter. The referee wasn't even ready for that. Did you see that? Earl Hebner almost said, wow, that was cool. Watch him. 1, 2, oh.
Now, there is a reason that we're including the pin attempt here, it should be said.
Oh, because he's kicking the leg through the other leg and doing it lying like he did.
You said it like Owen then. I kick your leg out of your leg.
Yeah, look at that. Very cool. And this is going to hurt even more because Razor's flat on the mat and then it's going to torque. At least when Bret's on his feet, you're already kind of, you can stiffen yourself up a little bit to not have him sit on your back, which he'll do anyway. But here we go. This is tough. And dude, Razor's the same as Nash. He's such a big guy, deceptively big. There he is right there. Yeah, this is the fall down one as Owen has WrestleMania 10. Owen, I wonder if Earl's going to be enamored with the move here too. Let's see. Yeah, knocks Owen down and just hooks it right there. This is the same finish as Yokozuna where he got the salt thrown in his eyes, right?
Mm-hmm. You know that match was meant to go a lot longer.
Why is that?
And then Yoko just told Bret, I'm done, pin me. Or let's just go to the finish quick. He blew up in like 6 minutes, did Yoko.
Are you talking about WrestleMania 10?
No, we're talking about WrestleMania 9.
Oh, when Yoko won over.
That's when he got the salt in the eyes, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Was he that nervous? I guess I would be.
Well, he was that fat.
Yeah, but up until
the thing
is,
he went for, yeah. I mean, apart from the fact that he was just huge, I guess, but yeah, maybe it was an adrenaline thing, and he just absolutely
his first world title,
got drained.
First singles championship. Here we go with Austin.
Now, I included this because I love the way Austin gets into it himself. He's the one who's fighting, but it doesn't look awkward at any point, or that he's cooperating. I think this is why I included this for the last one.
Austin has a great way with his body language that he's wildly trying to fight you every single second along the way. He understands the struggle, even when he's selling.
Yeah, but look how his body is turning into Bret like he's trying to fight it, and then he just slips right over.
Yeah, he's doing it. What happened is Austin, to this point right here, once Bret stands, Austin is sliding his shoulder over and kicking his hip in that direction to turn himself over. But people are looking at his arms. It's a distraction spot. What are you looking at with struggling with Austin? The blood and his arm going, no, 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 as his hips are saying, yes, yes, yes. That sounds completely wrong. Sorry. Aha.
Aha. Is Bret the best there ever was? As far as just like technically sound, I'm not talking about world of sport kind of thing, but as far as technically sound, is Bret the best to ever do it? Or is there somebody else that you put on Bret's level or even above?
No, I don't put anybody on Bret's level. He's all Bret's going to hear is I said no. I mean, yes, you are the best there is, was, and the way we're looking in 2025, ever will be. So he was right. Bret's right. See, you're right when you said he's right. No, he's absolutely the best. He would admit his promos weren't quite there, but like you said on the pre-show, when Bret didn't care, his promos were great. Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Or
Hypnosis. Dean Malenko's a cruiserweight. Oh man, we need to watch that for the Patreon.
But even when Bret speaks a truth, and this is what makes wrestlers great. This is what makes wrestlers and storylines memorable. Even if you're a heel, and that's why the whole thing with him and Shawn, Canada versus the US, they both spoke a truth, and the fans reacted accordingly. Bret only got better as time went on, and Bret's promos got more. I'm longing for a Bret Hart promo where you don't need to shout, speak wrestling ease. That's the wrestler language where you have to say the name and this and that. I'm begging for a conversational. That's why Punk is so over. Punk is a conversational promo. He's getting a little more pandering here and there. But the core of why Punk got over is why Bret got over with his promos. He's speaking the truth and he's talking to you. He's not yelling at you and going, this is what we're going to do, brother. There was a time and place for that, but it was passé by that point.
I wish I'd included some footage, fan footage, even if it's at the house show at Madison Square Garden, where Bret's in like 2010 or 2011 or whenever he had his last matches, and it was like a 6-man with the new Hart Foundation, as it were, Natty and Harry Smith and whatnot. And he's just as sound, and he's like in his mid-50s, and he's got a career-ending concussion, and yet he can still pull. Even the pendulum backbreaker looked great. Even the sharpshooter looked great. Even the elbow off the middle looked great. He can't do he couldn't do the Russian leg sweep because then he'd have to take a bump.
Yeah.
And obviously he can't do that. But the other 4 looked pretty much just as good as they ever did.
Well, he had 2 other matches. The one with Vince at WrestleMania in Arizona where everybody interfered. He needed all the smoke and mirrors at that point. And also the match where he won the U.S. title from Miz. There's been Bret wrestled a few times after, like you said, that house show and other things where he still showed, man, I'm kind of better than most even after all the stuff that happened to me.
He was in like a 14-man tag match at some point as well. He actually had, it might blow your mind here, including the Vince McMahon match at WrestleMania, he had 11 matches.
Wow.
So he wrestled The Miz, Chris Jericho and Edge versus Bret Hart and John Cena, the 14-man elimination, and a bunch of house shows.
Was he on a Survivor Series team too? Was that the Nexus one or one of the other ones?
That was SummerSlam. That was the 14-man elimination.
Okay.
And then the last match he ever had was Bret and John Cena versus Alberto Del Rio and Ricardo Rodriguez.
I'm telling you right now, even he's incredibly brave. That's still a chance. I've talked about it before with, say, Devon getting back in the ring with the issues he had with the stroke. And, of course, I think he had back surgery or he had the back issues. And it just takes one bump, one weird bump, one weird thing. And, of course, you got to put your trust in the other person to some degree, even to take a move. It's an incredible chance. He's 11 matches after suffering everything he suffered, and still, like you said, just like riding a bike, just at least with the moves you can do properly, and that speaks to it right there. What did you say? Well, Bret didn't do the Russian leg sweep because he would have to take a bump. He's eliminating all the danger from the match and saying, I still have 4 other moves to do him I can do. Well, maybe not the one off the second rope, but I mean,
no, he did.
Oh, he did it?
I think he did the move off the elbow off the second. I think he did, yeah.
At WrestleMania or this house show?
No, house show.
That's even braver. Like at WrestleMania, you would say, okay, I'm going to pull something out, but he must have been feeling himself that night. Or he wanted to show those kids, I can still do this.
So yeah, that's the Bret Hart and Hart Dynasty versus the Nexus. Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, and Michael Tarver. So there you go. That's the one I'm talking about.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
There you go.
PJ Black. Yeah.
Okay then. So obviously, but pretty much we can never really talk about Bret Hart without mentioning the Montreal Screwjob. You were in the wrestling business, of course. You were sort of in between almost. WCW and ECW, a brief return to ECW at that time, but I think you were still with WCW at this point and you were sort of hanging around with the flock. Now, this happens early-ish November. I haven't got the exact dates, like the 7th or the 9th or something. Montreal Survivor Series 1997. We all know the story. Let's not bore each other to death recounting all the facts that every wrestling fan knows. What was your immediate reaction to hearing about this? Because this was, even for years, this was like the story of stories of the wrestling newsletters and I guess locker rooms throughout as well. What was your reaction?
Well, my reaction was I have never seen anything like this before. This is very odd. And obviously being a worker, you're thinking, is it real or is it not real? Because everything, even today, you're looking at injuries and all this stuff going, is it real? Is it work? The Seth Rollins thing was the one that kind of tripped everybody up recently with the leg injury and then coming out and cashing in. So we've been predisposed to not believe anything that we see or anything that we hear. And with this, you're kind of wondering, but with Bret going to WCW and this being done, spitting on Vince, wrecking the entire outside the ring commentary area and everything, and then doing WCW, which back then, WWE never mentioned, or WWF at the time, never mentioned WCW, even though there was a Monday Night War. They sort of did the Billionaire Ted stuff. They parried it, but they never gave it any kind of credence, which even then, during that part of the Attitude Era, it was like, oh my God, you said WCW, you said Nitro, or even when Nitro went out and out to give you the finishes of every tape show, that was taboo. That was really exciting and a little bit like, ooh, this is, how's this going to play out? But this was the ultimate, what's going to happen next? Like it was, the boys were watching this stuff more than the fans in a way. Like what's going to happen next? Are people going to quit, give their notice, not want to work for Vince? Are they never going to trust? I mean, you should never trust a wrestling promoter. Are they ever going to trust Vince when he says, yes, you go out there, here's the finish? I'm sure there was a time where people were like, is he going to screw me next?
I've got something to add to this. And the timing is quite weird. I thought it was after, it was actually before. Do you remember when Jeff Jarrett, and this is October 20th, so a couple of weeks before Montreal, Jeff Jarrett returned to the WWF. And it isn't, Double J, aha kind of thing. It's
the NWA guy, right? With the shoot promo.
Before the NWA bit, though. That came in early 98. So for a couple of months, he had the weird outfit, but when he debuted, he had his hair in a ponytail. He was wearing this weird check jacket kind of thing. And then he gives a worked shoot where he talks about Eric Bischoff and WCW and that kind of thing. And that was weirdly the precursor to, X-Pac doing it a few months later when he jumped back to the WWF, and his promo was a lot better than Jeff's, I'm sorry to say, because Jeff's died a death immediately kind of thing. And but yeah, he does a work shoot on Vince McMahon, on WCW, Eric Bischoff, Mongo McMichael, I think, as well. And yeah, that's one of the first times when they overtly really talk about WCW at that point.
Yeah, but also with Jeff, that's an interesting case of talking into a deep dive about that on a future episode. Take a drink, everybody. Because at that time, Jeff was somehow going back and forth between these two companies almost multiple times, multiple times, 2 times in each company, finishing off in WCW and the famous Vince with I got the world, the fate of WCW in my hands, and goes across the monitor, sees Jeff getting ready, goes, oh, who do we have here? And they're like, oh God. But he company hopped 2 times, right? Before he ended up in WCW.
Yeah, so he left in mid-95 with Road Dogg. He turned back up in the WWF very briefly at the end of 95 and then left again after a month. Then he went to WCW for a year, came back to the WWF. He left in late-ish 99 after the whole China Good Housekeeping match and the IC title thing, where he supposedly held up Vince McMahon.
All the money they owed him. He wanted all the money he did it like an Ultimate Warrior in a way where, give me my money now before I go out there to put her over.
Yeah, well, they actually lowballed Jeff on a contract, so record business and everything. Then they tried to sign him for less money. So then he went back to WCW. So yeah, he ends up in the WWF 3 separate times, WCW twice.
Wow. That's a worker. And then he started TNA. So if all this stuff didn't happen to Jeff and he wasn't, say, fired on the simulcast between Raw and Nitro in 2001, you would have never got an alternative with TNA.
Maybe so. Maybe so indeed. I mean, we might have had that Australian WWA thing taking over or something, that they were trying to get all the ex-WCW guys like Buff Bagwell and Sting and all that, and Scott Steiner and Nathan Jones, in fact, as well. Right, let's go to the Montreal thing. So we've got your opinion on what happened. You didn't know if it was real or anything. Did you ever call up the 1-900 lines to see what they were saying? Did you ever do that?
I was broke. I couldn't even afford to get a can of tuna at that point. I'm not, call the hotline. To us, as workers, that was still like a meme before it was a meme. When people said, when somebody was trying to be hey, what are you, a smart ass? And it was like, hey, what's the finish? Call the hotline.
What did Raven and anybody else you were hanging about with at the time think?
No, this is a strange time because my communication with Raven or anybody from the flock, we're talking about November, and I was just about out, and it was the beginning of December where I announced my, quote, retirement from the business in early December. So I was kind of in the desert in a way, and obviously was not communicating with Raven because it really wasn't worth talking to him about anything at that point. So I was kind of on an island all on my own out in the desert, as I just said, but watching it as myself as a worker and saying, oh my God, this is like, it felt like kind of like the end of the wrestling world in a way, but it was actually the beginning of something crazy and exciting and ultra profitable. So who would have known? But it almost didn't turn out that way.
Well, that's exactly where, because you told me beforehand, it's like, well, the Montreal thing didn't have to happen at all. And you're right, it didn't have to happen for a multitude of reasons like that. And we can back and forth. I wrote a lot about it in my Owen Hart book, so I've got some of the facts still in my head, or best I know facts anyway. But why did you say, because you saved it for now, so I don't know what you're going to say, why do you say that the Montreal Screwjob nearly didn't happen?
No, I'm saying the Attitude Era nearly never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Montreal Screwjob, I don't know how you could have avoided it in a way. I know how you could have avoided it. You just get Bret to put, like Cornette was part of that whole thing, and he tells it a lot more entertainingly than I could ever. But he was talking about, he supposedly came up with, well, why don't you just screw him? Or, why don't you double cross him? And then Vince was like, whoa. And then other people are saying they came up with the Montreal Screwjob or double crossing Bret. But it's definitely something that should have been handled a lot earlier. And here's how you avoid the Montreal Screwjob. The only way, but maybe not the way you could financially. You keep Bret and you honor the contract. That's the only way to avoid it, correct? Because this was the 20-year deal at whatever amount of money that Bret agreed to, Vince agreed to, and then Vince turned around and said, I can't afford it, and let him negotiate with WCW. Do I have that off base?
Here's the thing, is that I think people get wrong about Montreal, is that wasn't Bret's last night. That was far from Bret's last night. I mean, he didn't even debut in WCW until like late December. So he had some weeks left in his contract, and Eric at least claimed at the time he was amenable enough to let Bret work with the WWF through to January of 1998. So there were so many ways that the belt could have been taken off Bret. And I understand his issues with Shawn. It's a campaign of a year and a half practically of he thinks that Shawn's against him, and he said things to his face where he basically disrespected him to his face kind of thing, and then Bret
He'd never put him over. That's what Shawn said.
Brett says...
Well, it was after Bret said he would put him over, right?
Yeah. So I once again, Bret's always right, but I completely understand Bret's point of view. It's like, well, I'm not going to make this dude who apparently, one, has a problem with me, and two, has no respect for the business or anything else kind of thing. Or, Bret's position in the business. But there were so many people he could have dropped the title to. He said he'd drop it before Survivor Series. He said he would drop it afterwards. But what people forget is that, what the first WWF... I don't know if it was the first title defense Shawn ever did, but it might as well have been. It was against the Brooklyn Brawler at Madison Square Garden in an untelevised match. Because the month before, there was a number one contenders battle royal in Madison Square Garden. And Pat Patterson, of all people, would you believe, thought, wouldn't it be funny if a true outsider won it and Steve Lombardi ended up winning it? And then they completely forgot about that, and they were like, oh no, now we've got to do this match because he won the battle royal. So it ended up being Shawn and Brooklyn Brawler. It wasn't the main event, but it was in the middle of the card kind of thing. And they had a really good, a pretty good match, I believe, if nothing else. I've not heard. I've not seen it myself personally.
Yeah, but you know what's funny about that? You don't want to pull a rib at the mecca of WWE. The Garden back then, you do not play games or say, wouldn't it be, it'd be funny. It's like that version of, it'd be cool. It'd be funny if this guy won. Nobody will remember. Yeah. No. At the Garden, you don't want to mess with that crowd. They will remember. And if you want to, even if it's the Brooklyn Brawler, so it's kind of like they're going to cheer him on because he's in their area, their neighborhood. But I was going to get back to this with Bret saying he would do all that and Bischoff saying he would do business in a way to let Bret drop the title. If they even extended it somewhere into mid or the third week of January, where usually the Royal Rumble happened, could you imagine if it was like, this is the first Royal Rumble where the champion will defend the title in the Rumble? Bret could get eliminated early and screwed in a way, but then you have a brand new WWF champion, but Bret never got pinned for the title. That's kind of a way where everybody could be happy if you just waited it out. But then again, dude, we wouldn't have gotten it. WWF would still be in financial trouble, and there would be no Mr. McMahon. Let's get to that, because that might have never happened. That's what I'm saying. There wouldn't have been all these stars that would have come out from the Attitude Era. That's my belief.
And absolutely right, I think you are as well. To that end, okay, I think Steve Austin and Mr. McMahon would have still happened in a way, because I think their first interaction, I can't remember if it was just before or just after, but they have like a brief interaction, and then they just drop it for months on end.
Well, plus Austin stunned McMahon in the Garden when he won.
Yeah.
He literally was stunned.
Set. You've got to admit. I mean, it's the way he takes
not.
The worst.
What are you kidding me?
Love it.
That big goof can't sell to save his life. Come on. This is the best sell Vince McMahon ever did. In this, when Flair would say, we're partners.
Oh, it does. That is amazing.
But I gotta explain why it almost never happened. All the stuff you're talking about could have never happened, because after Bret, we're gonna get back to the events in there. Maybe Bret knocked Vince out, gave him a black eye. Vince came on to like whatever the old primetime set it looked like, where JR interviewed him, but it was more muted, where they were kind of 45
like
degrees from each other
on that as well. Like he had really weird makeup.
That's where Vince did the Bret screwed Bret, right? Mm-hmm. So after that, this is from Vince Russo, after that, and he did that, he really believed in it. He thought the fans would be on Vince McMahon's side as a babyface, and Bret would be the heel. The time-honored tradition, passing the torch, whatever the cliches and catchphrases are. After that, Vince Russo was right there. Everybody was telling him, this is great. We should play, because Vince wanted to just forget about it and move on. And everybody on the inner circle, all the yes men, all the ass kissers said, yes, we need to just sweep it under the rug, forget it, move on. You're still a babyface. You're the babyface in this. And Russo's like, are you crazy? You can be the biggest heel. I'm paraphrasing. We need to lean into this. Lean into the whole thing that you're the boss that screwed Bret, all that stuff, and finally convinced Vince to basically not what we saw, but the birth of Mr. McMahon. So basically telling Mr. McMahon's truth, and here we go. Without that little pivot, if they swept it under the rug, I can sure as heck guarantee you that there wouldn't be a Mr. McMahon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Even with because Austin was stunning everybody, but he didn't have the ultimate arch rival and villain. What everybody who has a 9-to-5 job, everybody who works, we even have it with YouTube and sponsors. You have to have a villain, and usually the villain is your boss, the person you work for. Almost nobody likes their boss. As a matter of fact, mostly everybody, especially now, hates corporate America, hates their boss. There should be TKO could be the new Mr. McMahon in 2025. Mm-hmm. Everybody hates TKO. Can you imagine if they brought Vince back and said, this is TKO's pick to run WWE? That's the only thing that will save Triple H. Triple H versus Vince would make Triple H a babyface once again.
Mm. Well, I don't know. Maybe more 8-minute introductory packages he voices over could do it.
Enjoy the show.
Enjoy the show.
But I'm telling you right now, dude, that saved the company. And you could say anything you want about Russo, but that, how should I say, devil on the shoulder when everybody else is telling Vince, you're the amazing, you're great, don't, Brett's an asshole, whatever. That's what saved the company.
I think sort of like the theme of what we're saying is like, could this be prevented? Yeah, of course it could. There's a couple more things I want to make mention of. One, Vince McMahon, according to Brett anyway, was constantly taking Shawn's side, regardless of who was at fault, because obviously he's not in the room, but he's always taking Shawn's side. So therefore that's, sowing more seeds of resentment in Brett, of course. But the other one is I believe this might have been earlier in the day in Montreal, or maybe a week before or days before, I don't know. But Vince is laying out scenarios where Brett can finally lose to Shawn or whatever it might be. And I think it culminates in like a 4-way match where he's lost every match up until that 4-way. And then I think he loses again. And he says, and then like the idea was maybe go on Raw the next night and say, if I don't win this match, then I'll retire or whatever it will. And then he finally wins. But it's like, why would you trust Vince on the way out, especially in 97? Why would you trust Vince, who's telling you are going to lose every single match on your way out until the last one? Kind of thing.
That's a good point.
Why do you ever trust? And Brett turned him down straight away. He's already
told you exactly who he is right then and there, right? During the course of the week. But what's Vince supposed to do? You should put people on the way out. Vince, you put the belt on Brett. So Vince booked himself into this mess as well.
And it's the Jeff Jarrett thing. We were just saying with Jeff Jarrett before, he turned up and with the China thing. Why did you let his contract run out while he was still champion? And
well, this company let The Rock's contract run out too.
Yeah, that might have different reasons though. That might have been on purpose.
What I'm saying is they let people's contracts run out, or Vince made a deal that at the time seemed to be the 20-year, multi-million-dollar deal. Seemed so preposterous in a way, but in another way, when you're looking as time went on, it was a pretty company-friendly contract over time. And how much more, and I'm sure Brett thinks about this more than we're about to say, how much longer, for some reason, WCW was cursed when WWE people went over there at this particular point. How much more, and how many more classics, and how many more moments would we have gotten from Bret Hart selfishly as fans if he never went to WCW? Think about that.
I think that is lost in time to a point, is that Bret didn't want to go. He would have rather have made $10.5 million over 20 years with the WWF for more dates. And keep in mind, it's front-loaded. So it would have been like, I think it's like 1.25 maybe for the first couple of years as an active wrestler, and then he retires or goes part-time in a couple of years, and then he makes $500,000 a year, whatever it is. But the thing is that he wanted to make less than half the money in the first 3 years compared to WCW for more dates. He would rather, and I think it's fair to say for Bret, he is, and I'll say this in the best possible way for Bret, because he took himself seriously. More people should take himself seriously like Bret did. But he was a mark for himself. But he knew that WCW was not the place he should be. That was proved over time. Proved very quickly, in fact. He wanted to be with the WWF. He wanted to work for Vince McMahon. He wanted to be the company guy. And here's the other thing that gets me. Vince says, we can't afford your contract. And then at some, they're taking the water coolers out the office, is the saying. They were looking at downgrading into being a regional company, supposedly, around this time. Then weirdly, at SummerSlam 97, they're threatening to give away $1 million in a fan giveaway, but they didn't actually give away that money anyway. But the crazy thing is that why couldn't they afford Bret's contract? I bet he could have done the entire time, because especially by the beginning of 98, the business and ticket sales were already way up. They could have completely afforded his contract. So that's why I think the conspiracy comes in, is that Vince, maybe with Shawn's say-so or trying to get into his ear or whatever, Vince really did want to get rid of Bret.
That's an interesting, and actually that's a possible theory. You know why? It seems like he's running the same playbook that he ran with Savage.
And Hogan. Both.
and Hogan.
Yeah, they
So
get into
Bret-
their late
if Bret-
30s, and yeah.
Yeah, Brett became not part of the new generation anymore, right? And we're trying to get a youth movement, a younger generation, and that's when Savage said he'll get a second opinion. That was a great line. I want to say this: if Brett did stay, think about it. You just said ticket sales, even if they kept the current contract, on stock options alone when they went public, Brett could have cashed in off of that. Not right away, but he would have got a ton of stock options.
Bradshaw did. Did you know that?
Yeah.
He sold the first day when he got all the stock.
Oh, really? But imagine if Brett held on to it till now when TKO took it over, and you're, what are you, around $200 a share right now?
Yeah, I think at the time, like the shares were like $15, and then they sunk to under 10 for like over a decade, and they only started coming up around when the WWE Network, 2014. Then they went up to like $30 a share, and then the next huge jump was when the WWE SmackDown on Fox deal was made in 2019, I believe. I don't know if it was announced in 2018, but that's when the stock,
like November 1st or something, 2019, something like that.
Yeah, that's when the stock jumped like massively for the second time.
Yeah, but think about that too. Then you got Brett as part of the company and maybe a legend, maybe an agent, maybe office management. Then TKO takes over. Or you got all these billion-dollar TV deals where there's more money, and Brett could probably turn around and maybe get some kind of... He would have made many more millions of dollars than the $3 million per year or whatever he got at WCW for the short time. He would have... And I'm sure he's getting paid from WWE right now. I'm sure he's made appearances. Throughout the years, he made the money back. But you can imagine when he stayed there, he didn't tarnish in his mind his legacy at all. But going to WCW, and then the IPO, then the TV licensing deals, then TKO buys WWE. Even the Saudi Arabia money, in a way, not that he would wrestle, but maybe if Goldberg never kicked him and he never got a stroke, he might have had a match and got millions of dollars for one match.
Maybe.
I mean, we're talking like this is what if, this is all in theory, but maybe going to WCW potentially derailed, the way it looks, his career and ended it way, way, way too early.
Yeah, the reason why I mentioned the Vince thing is because, well, could the Montreal Screwjob have been avoided? And I think all the reasons for somebody who was sane, yes, of course, it could have been avoided 100 times over. I think at some point Vince decided that he was sick of Brett, or his salary was upsetting the apple cart because Shawn and Undertaker were making Sting money at the time, and Brett was making something like 1.25, I guess.
What's Sting money? I don't know what Sting money is.
I think it's 700 or 750.
Oh, 750 was what Shawn was making.
Yeah. So that'll be Sting money, I think. I can't remember if it's 700 or 750 at the moment. But there's one more thing I wanted to ask you. Have we ever come up with a definitive list of who knew about the Montreal Screwjob? Because I wanted to throw this out at you. Wherever the list is. Vince, yes. Shawn, yes. Triple H, undoubtedly so, we think. And if Triple H knew, China probably knew. So we'll say that. Jerry Briscoe knew, because he was teaching Shawn defensive whatever it was.
I remember he's trying to teach him how to shoot and everything.
Yeah. Earl Hebner did, of course. Vince Russo said he didn't know. Jim Cornette said he didn't know, but they both may have... Russo's claimed that he may have suggested it. Jim Cornette, very in-depth, has said he suggested this kind of thing, but didn't realise they were actually going to implement it. Bruce Pritchard has said he absolutely didn't know. Pat Patterson said he absolutely didn't know. Which rises to the weird theory here. Who played the music? Which makes me think one of two things. One, Bruce Pritchard did know, because I believe, wasn't he the guy who made the call to play the music at the time?
I'm not sure, but Bruce was right there in Gorilla all the time and would give cues to the referee, and my assumption is also music.
So it's possible Kevin Dunn knew, it's possible Kerwin Silfies or whoever was directing in the truck knew as well, or were told that this music needs to play. Someone sorted out the queuing up of music. The only one that I'm not absolutely sure on at all, and I'd love to ask him, is Sergeant Slaughter, because he was out there with Vince on the floor.
What I would say is, I can see what Vince is saying. You got to give him some credit because he acted like I and only I alone, or the core people that are involved with this, need to know. And it would hurt everybody. Not that the agents or management at a pro wrestling company have much credibility with the wrestlers because they lie on behalf of the owner and the promoter. But my thought would be that Vince would keep it as close to his vest as possible so everybody else has culpable deniability with this, or plausible deniability. That's my thought. But if there was one person, if Jerry Briscoe knew, Pat Patterson had to know. If Pat Patterson knew, even separate with that, just based on the responsibilities and duties of this person, like you said, music, cues, all that stuff, Bruce Pritchard had to know. Kevin Dunn, maybe. Kerwin, maybe. You know why? If Bruce is screaming, if they see the finish and Bruce is screaming, hit Sean's music, they're going to hit the music. It's just a chain of command thing. They see the finish, they might go, what is going on? But Bruce is like, just hit the music. They're going to hit the music. And if Bruce says, keep rolling, because remember Vince said, I want you to get all this, so when Bret's wrecking all the equipment and everything, remember they said, we want you to keep shooting this. That's a Vince call to Bruce, to Kerwin, to Kevin Dunn, which means none of them at that particular point needs to be clued in. Bruce, I think, is already clued in. But the directors and the camera operators are literally with blinders on, just listening, just following orders. That's all they're doing. So I believe some or most of that, but I have a problem believing that Bruce didn't know it all.
What about Jim Ross?
I would say with his interactions with Vince and everything, and the fact that they want the commentators to just react to what's going on, JR didn't know. They do that. They do that on the most benign things. You notice that? Like nobody knows Brock's coming back. Nobody knows this guy's coming back. Nobody knew Punk was coming back. They want a real, I mean, for all we said, I mean, JR could have been like, man, they screwed him. That would have just led to more of the storyline afterwards. It would have helped, not hurt anything. Right, what do you think? Do you think JR knew?
That's a tough one. I'd need to re-listen to the commentary again. That's a tough one. Probably.
I lean towards no.
Because the thing is I hate to say this, but I figured Jim was pretty much a yes man as well at the time. So maybe he'd keep his mouth shut and just let it play out. I think his commentary was fairly professional, which it always was.
Well, you think by being that professional and not emotional that he was clued into it?
I don't know.
Do you think that hints at it?
I don't know.
I'm leaning towards no because of his, even though he runs talent relations, he knows his contract's been rescinded. Bret's going to WCW. We got a problem here with Bret not wanting to drop it to Sean, and that's where JR, even though they're calling Vince, JR's put in the middle as the bad guy, as the bad cop with this. But from a commentator's perspective, they do not need to be clued in the finishes, surprises, and this was a surprise, trust me. So Bret was surprised more than anybody, which, let's just touch on it real quick. There's that theory out there that Bret did know about this, that this is, I think it was a Warrior and maybe even Kevin Nash in the past have commented, Warrior's like, the camera's in the right place. They're shooting a documentary of Wrestling with Shadows, which, by the way, we should do an episode on that. All episode on that. Everything seemed to be in the right place. I'm just giving all the theories out here. I love a good theory.
I know you love a good theory. I think, okay, here's the biggest one to counteract that, is that I can't really see Bret Hart being the world's greatest actor for nearly 30 years and being legitimately upset in lawsuits and
like we think he and Goldberg are best friends laughing and trolling everybody.
Yeah, no, not a chance.
This is the fringe point, like 1% type of thing. But, you know, that's the thing too. There's cameras everywhere. So you're always going to get the action in WWE. They are good at capturing all that. But man, I don't think Vince even knew that possibly the thing that could have destroyed the company was actually the launching pad to make them more profitable than ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a few instances where things have gone absolutely not according to plan and it's worked out far better than anybody could have ever hoped for, or anybody could have scripted it to turn out that great. And then Vince resisted the Mr. McMahon thing. It's like, nah, not a chance, man.
There's a thing that Ben Hameen always says from the world of improv. If it feels weird, do it more. Obviously, Vince felt weird being the bad guy, and he wanted to always be the torchbearer for WWE and the flag bearer and all that stuff and the cheerleader for WWE. But man, if we never got Mr. McMahon, I don't know if WWE would even be here today.
It's true. It cannot be harped on enough. We're going to move on, our last Bret's segment before we get to a bit of news. And I wanted to ask you, who was better, Bret Hart or Owen Hart? So I know it's a very, very incredibly unfair question to ask you. We also watched, for Patreon that's coming out this coming Monday, Bret Hart and Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10. And you like giddy like a schoolboy watching it again, just all the amazing music between the notes, and everything that went into that match that nobody's capable of doing anymore, which is just such a shame. That being said,
if I was mic'd up with a lav mic instead of the studio mic, I'd be getting up going, yeah. I mean, it's just, you said it about the smartboard segment during the Bret Hart, the 5 moves of doom. And you're like, I haven't seen you. You got to bring the smartboard back because I get excited about this stuff. And that was a match that I was literally calling the spots as they were happening or before they happened, but I couldn't tell you what happened on Monday this past week. It's just forgettable. That just proves how great Bret. By the way, we don't even know if Bret even has watched anything we've done regarding Bret Hart. So if Owen wins this, I'm sure we will hear from Bret Hart. And I'm almost cheering for Owen to win this.
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let Ross know and tell Ross to tell Bret. Right, okay, so for the first time in a year, we're bringing back the comparison table. 10 different categories, and you can give them points out of 10 for each. Now, for longer time fans of the Stevie Richards show, you might remember that we did this once with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Well, we've changed. We've done it a couple of times. One with Kevin Nash and Logan Paul, of all people, as well. So we've changed some of the criteria, but some of them remain the same. So 6 of them remain the same. 4 of them are different from the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels comparison chart. So I've not told Stevie what he gave Bret the original time. So we're going to see what his scores are like compared to what they were the first time for the relevant criteria. But other than that, let's go straight to it. So, Stevie, I mean, you're not on the monitor anymore, but straight off the bat, look, the airport test, basically. Who, looking like a star out of 10, Bret and Owen?
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. This whole episode focusing on Bret, watching Bret versus Owen has been one of my favorite and most fun episodes to talk about. So hopefully we can do it again. James and everybody at home, as we go through this, write your number down from 1 to 10 on each of these categories. And in the comments, if you can, tell me how you scored it, Bret versus Owen, when it comes to this stuff, or even just the total score. So James, get your pen and paper out. I know you write the notes, you're writing scripts, but let's go. Let's have some fun. The airport test. These guys both score high, but I will say we knock points off because if you're talking about an airport test, height has to be included. And Bret is a little taller than Owen. Some would say a little more than a little taller than Owen. So I would give him, we're knocking points off because when you compare him to Kevin Nash, Undertaker, even Austin to a certain extent, they're not as tall. Although Bret versus Austin, they look like they're a similar height. So I'm going to take it back. So Bret, I would give Bret, and they're both thick guys, by the way. They're big guys. They're really thick-looking guys. So they're not everyday people walking through the airport. But for Bret, I would give Bret an 8 right there, if it looks like an 8. And in a way, I would give, depending on how they're dressed. I know Bret's wearing his black leather jacket with a headman thing on the back sometimes, so it stands out. But Owen, I would give maybe a 7 because it just, Owen looks, he kind of, from his reputation, looked like a regular guy, acted like a regular guy, wasn't too, the word I would use for Owen would be in public, people said he was very unassuming. came across very humble. That could also give off an air like you're just kind of trying to blend in. So I give Bret an 8 and Owen a 7.
No wonder you were Dr. Stevie. Your handwriting's like a doctor's.
Thank you very much.
What is that, 8?
I'm sorry.
It's like a hieroglyphic.
It's an 8. I'm writing on an iPad, for goodness sake.
Jeez,
There's an 8.
That's better. There you go.
Now it looks like the medical snake right there. I am a doctor. Aha.
So athleticism.
Okay. So I want you to save yours till last, and unless you want to go and tell me what you think as we go into the categories.
No. I'll jump in the end.
All right. Athleticism. All right. This is an easy one. Does that look like a 10 to you?
10 for both. How do you define athleticism then?
Well, being able to work, being able to change gears, being able to take bumps, being able to work other styles. I mean, okay, let me just do this. Okay, because you make a fair point. Owen worked in Japan. Owen was much more of a high flyer. I will rescind it and hopefully give numbers that are legible. I'm going to say Owen is a 10 and Bret is an 8. When you compare him to Owen, I got to knock a couple off of Bret. I wonder if Bret's getting mad right now if he's watching us. Okay. All right, the wrestling part, technical, striking, ring general. Oh my goodness. I mean, Bret's an absolute 10. Owen at this point, I don't know. I would say if you want to split hairs, Bret Hart's punches are way better than Owen's. Owen's punches were a little straightforward and they were kind of trying to be like Bret's, but they weren't. So the striking right there. Now calling a match, I would say Bret has probably led more matches than Owen throughout his career. So I would give Owen an 8 on that. Technically, they're both as sound as you get, but some of the striking, some of the hard shots, but then the athleticism with Owen, enziguris, splashes, top rope moves, he was very proficient at, but it's not the wrestling or kind of like ground game that Bret has. All right. Ring presence, poise, and charisma. This is tough because ring presence and poise, they both have it. Bret actually, with the quiet kind of poise and ring presence, it's unmatched. But Owen, especially as a heel and the charisma he had, he kind of trumps. So I would have to say they both have mostly positives, but just tiny little flaws. So in their own right, I would say 9 for each of them. All right, babyface. I would give Bret, man, if there was no hard foundation as heels, Bret would be a 10 as a babyface, but the promos as a heel were so much better than Bret's promos as a babyface. So I would give Bret as a babyface an 8. Owen as a babyface, believe it or not, as a babyface was so vanilla, I would give Owen a 5 as a babyface because his heel work was so good. Now as a heel, dude, this is just me. Like, you're a huge Bret Hart fan. I'm a huge fan of both of them. Both their heel runs were absolute 10s. Owen was like this, I'm nowhere near as athletic. Owen was like the chicken you-know-what heel, like a Stevie Richards. He was the annoying heel, like a Stevie Richards. He was also an entertaining, annoying heel. In other words, Owen had heat, but not channel-changing heat. He had entertaining, like, we want to see him get beat up, but I can't wait till the next ridiculous thing Owen Hart says or does. Kind of like backstage when he ribbed people and he was kind of just being a goof. Bret as a heel, especially like I said earlier, when he was in Canada, he was a babyface. When he was in the U.S., he would cut the most vicious heel. Remember Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania? If America was
if you're going to give America an enema,
this would be where you put the tube, right? Something like that. Mm-hmm. So both of their heel work was much better than their babyface work. That's just my opinion. Okay, promos. I feel like both of them, were great in their own way, especially the heel promos, like I said, but they still had some weaknesses. And Bret had said before, what do you say? I'm like a 4 as a promo or something like that, but I was this when he rated himself. So their promos, when they found their voice, when they found their character, it still wasn't great promos, but Bret could still manage to talk people into the building, especially as a heel. And one of the things I love about Bret, Vince Russo points this out better than anything. What did Bret not do when he was going over, when he did his promos?
Ooh, I don't know.
He never promised he would win. He never guaranteed victory unless he was going to win. So there's a psychology to the promos. Owen was very entertaining, but it never made you feel like you wanted to beat him up or you wanted to cheer for him or anything like that. So I would give Bret's promos combined from babyface to heel and also protecting his character, I would give a 7, and I would give a 6 to Owen. Just because his babyface is so, I think he was doing heel promos as a babyface. They were so over the top and almost cynical in a way. He was kind of being heelish if you look back. And if you slow him down to like half speed and you put some dark music behind it, they're extremely disturbing. Psychology. This is where the Hart Foundation, the Hart Dungeon, all that stuff, I have to give both of them a 10 for psychology. Memorable moments? I would have to, this is where we just talked about it. I called every spot in the WrestleMania 10 thing before it was happening. The SummerSlam cage match, the storylines, the moments that Bret had as a babyface and a heel, the moments Owen had mostly as a heel against Bret, turning on his own family member, I would still say right up there, 10 and 10. So, memorable moments, the selling right up there. I don't think, outside of a Ricky Steamboat, which still he could be accused of overselling, I don't believe anybody could ever be a 10 in selling. Everybody could always improve. There's certain, any worker would say, I sold that too much or I got up too soon. But I would still say they are both a 9 right there. And I don't have my calculator if you can add them. I know you're adding them up.
Oh, yeah.
Who won?
Well, Bret won. Oh, well, in my eyes, anyway.
Bret's always right.
Right. Do you want me to give you my scores?
Yes.
Airport test. I said 9 for Bret, 6 for Owen. Athleticism, I said 7 for Bret, 9 for Owen. I'm thinking more of his Japan stuff and before he did his knee in. Wrestling ability, 10 for Bret, 8 for Owen. And I think it's because you lumped in the striking. I always thought Owen's punches were pretty crappy.
It was a straight punch with a hop, and he stomped his feet.
Yeah, exactly. But he's sort of almost windmilling his arms, kind of thing. And I guess it depended on what.
Oh, you know, like chopping wood down on somebody's neck, kind of thing.
Yeah, I always thought his punches were pretty phony, so I ended up giving him an 8 for that.
Plus, we don't know how many matches Owen actually led. We know Bret has led some matches, ring general. So those 2 points drop Owen to an 8 in my score.
Yeah. Ring poison presence, is that next?
Yes.
Because I've had to mix up things on my table.
But charisma as well. That's an important point for me.
Okay, so 10 for Bret and 8 for Owen. Because, I mean, he was charismatic at times, but like a man as a babyface, not so much. Babyface, Bret, I said 9. Owen, I said 7. But once again, I'm thinking more like Japan. I'm thinking Calgary. I'm not thinking early WWF stuff. But even when he was doing like the Blue Blazer stuff where it was a comedy thing, he was really funny with it. So I think it's, you know, a well-earned 7 on Babyface.
But what I'm saying is Babyface is the entire, as far as getting sympathy and making people care about you and everything. And Owen wasn't in a position at the time. It's the company's fault for not pushing him for people to have sympathy and want him to go over. Bret's been in that spot.
For heel work, 10 for Bret, 9 for Owen. I don't know if it's just more of a feel thing, because sometimes I just don't think he could have been a main eventer with his character. I don't know if it's just him in general. He was far better as a heel, as you rightly mentioned. But I don't think it would have propelled him to the main event kind of thing. I don't know if it's just part of the overall package or it was a bit too small at the time.
Well,
but he was a great heel for where he was.
Yeah, but main event doesn't mean always being... I mean, being a heel doesn't always have to coincide with being a main eventer. To be able to draw, to be able to generate interest. There's still that IC title rung back in the day when that guy or that title or whoever was fighting for that title, that was almost just as over as the world title at one point. That's my reasoning, that him as a heel stood out because that's what everybody remembers, besides the obvious and caring about Owen and him as a person. That's the most memorable stuff. Him teaming with Yokozuna and being the Mutt and Jeff thing, him being the annoying little guy next to the monster, that's what I remember from Owen. And that ties into the memorable moments type stuff that I remember from him.
What are we doing next? Is it promos? Bret, I put an 8 overall because I really like his babyface stuff as well. People forget his Hart Foundation promos. I mean, Calgary was terrible, of course, because he was terrified of the microphone. But like him and Jim were great. Him on his own was like a proto Bryan Danielson, just a genuine guy talking. And sometimes that's what you want. You want some realism. He was the realest guy in the company. As a heel, he was a 10 in the Hart Foundation in 97. He was amazing. So I've sort of gone 8, but I could be convinced to be a 10, to be honest. Owen, I put 4 or 5. I thought even as a heel, for the most part, his promos were pretty bad. He was just not a promo guy.
He was on commentary too, remember?
Yeah, King of the Ring 96, I believe. He wore a tuxedo, no less. I didn't think he was that good at commentary either, to be honest.
I mean, that's a whole different world. That's hard to do. Next is Psychology.
Psychology, 10 and 10. Memorable moments, 10. And 8 for Owen, just because Bret's obviously just been part of far more memorable moments, I guess.
Well, if you talk about the number, that's true. I just tie them in together forever, and especially since I might be a little partial, I just say there's more memorable moments that Owen created than anybody today on the roster, or any roster.
And for selling, I just put 10 and 10. Although
I put 9 and 9.
Yeah.
Because I just don't believe anybody's perfect, but they are darn near close. Bret in a way more than Owen, because Owen would sell and he'd have that like kind of like my thumbnail face, you know what I mean? Like I would do the that's the way he would sell. But Bret would be that person that would sell his selling not to a 1-to-1 analogy. His selling reminded me of the way Orton sells, like with nuance and detail and little things. Like you just said, there was little things that Bret did that we noticed in our WrestleMania 10 match. You're like, wait a minute, we're noticing like these little things that Bret would sell. He gets chest of the turnbuckle. He makes that face like he got the wind knocked out of him.
I've changed my mind. I've made it a 9.
You made it a 9?
Yeah, for Owen. I'm keeping Bret as a 10 though.
Okay,
I want to tell you.
Are.
Yeah, I want to take your scores. What you said before. So on the previous one, you gave Bret a 10 out of 10. So that matches with wrestling ability. You gave ring presence and poise and charisma and whatnot a 9. You previously gave him a 10. Babyface work, you gave him an 8. You previously gave him a 7. Heel work was a 10. Promos is the big discrepancy. You gave him a 7 just then. On the first video, you gave him between a 3 and an 8. So I think you were differentiating between babyface and
babyface is about a 3 to me. 8 was the heel promo. Yeah. So it's it's right near a 6 or a 7. So it's kind of the same.
Averages out, sort of. Memorable moments, 10 and 10. So mostly consistent.
Thank God. Not today, CTE. Aha.
Okay, I've added everything up. The scores are as follows. Bret Hart gets 88 points. Owen Hart gets 85. So Bret wins.
Bret's always right.
Bret is always right.
That's important.
In fairness, I gave Bret 94 and Owen Hart 76.
Oh my God.
So man, that was a discrepancy.
That's criminal. They can't be that far apart. Come on, man.
Yeah, I don't
Come
know.
on, man, as Lance Russell would say. Wait till the king finds out.
Well, there you go. That's the score. That's the Bret Hart thing all done and dusted for now. We actually had more Bret Hart stuff, but we have to leave it with just like time constraints, I guess. I guess, I know. Right, so we're going to move on. We've got a couple of bits of news, so I'm going to say thank you very much for everybody's time. We'll see you again next week. But before we do, Gail Kim versus GCW. Gail Kim versus GCW. We aren't going to show the video.
That wasn't on my bingo card.
No. So, I have furnished Stevie with the video. It's like an 11 or 13 second clip of some hardcore deathmatch nonsense that Gail Kim was reacting to. We're not going to show the video because of monetization reasons, basically. And because we've run into issues, or Dutch and I ran into issues when we had fire in one of the videos. So basically just any deathmatch stuff, we just don't include that kind of thing. So, Stevie, you're now going to watch off camera, or you're going to be on camera, but the video's going to be off camera, and your first reaction. So go ahead.
So I guess we got to scratch the what went wrong when I was on top of the flaming tables in ECW. We're not going to bring that to the episode.
No, I've already
I was up there
that.
for 2 minutes. Johnny Grunge, I think did an Amazon Prime shipment for more butane to put under the table, more lighter fluid. Okay, let's see what we got here. I love the x.com/triple HHH Paul L. That's the Twitter
Big
account.
fan. Big fan. You can't even play the music, unfortunately, because there's music on it.
Oh, wait a minute. Where are they at?
They're in like a junkyard.
No, I mean, they're up like a scout.
Yeah, basically.
Are they landing in barbed wire, too, through the glass?
Yeah.
It looks like Spider-Man made a web in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
You know what would be cool? Not to mention the fact, even though the fans are a little far back, like that glass went everywhere. What is the structure they're even jumping off of?
It
it's
looks like
cars.
Yeah, it's
They're
several
piled
cars
up.
and then like a pallet on top, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Scintillating audio.
fine.
I'm sorry for the podcast people.
I'm sure they're fine.
Okay.
That's my new reaction now to everything. I'm George Carlin. Hey, I'm sure they're okay.
Do you know what's interesting?
Hey, Jey Uso wrestled 2 days later. You're okay.
Do you know what's interesting is that you didn't go, oh my God, because I've seen it before. And you've probably seen that or similar to it before as well. It's not even shocking anymore. Anyway, one of them, they are two people. We don't even know who the people are. I'm sure they've got names. Anyway,
so they haven't created the Bret Hart, Owen Hart memorable moments that we just discussed on the table.
No.
That's what I'm going to point out. You tried to make a memorable moment. We don't even know who it is or what it is. We only know because of Gail Kim's reaction it even happened.
A clip from a recent GCW show features another completely moronic dive between two wrestlers. I don't think either of us recognise. They're on a platform on top of a stack of cars, seemingly at the dump. Maybe poetic. One of them gives a fisherman's buster through a pane of glass and then through a bed of barbed wire suspended over the ring. Of course, the usual suspects praise this, and of course, the usual suspects didn't. Gail Kim shared this video and said,
by the way, my assumption is one of them Joey Janela. He's usually the one. That's his company, right?
It's not his company. He's just there a lot, I guess. This is pure trash. Say you don't know how to storytell without saying it. Now, I read the comments from this. A couple of complete idiots started saying, what do you mean storytelling? The director of this documentary, apparently it's part of a documentary on deathmatch wrestling. It's like, he's done 2 great horror films. It's like, it is so mind-meltingly clear that Gail was referring to the 2 wrestlers, not the auteur, right? Anyway, GCW owner Brett Lauderdale took exception to Kim's remarks and fired back with this. Get this for a response, right? Where was it? If I can find it. This scene is part of a documentary produced by A24 telling the stories, in italicized, of little-known deathmatch fighters from around the world. There's a reason why they're little-known, Lauderdale wrote. It will premiere tonight, at prestigious film festivals around the world. Now, I dare anyone to name one memorable Gail Kim match.
Many versus Awesome Kong right off the bat.
Yeah, there were loads. I guess how... oh, I'm sorry.
Actually,
I guess
also she slapped me in the ear and caused ear damage. That's memorable to me.
so, I mean, apart from, Gail Kim and Awesome Kong essentially revolutionizing women's wrestling in the United States and North America when it's been treated as a joke for years, apparently that wasn't memorable. And also, until Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff turned up, they had the highest ratings ever in TNA.
Yeah, the women had way higher ratings wrestling than the guys in TNA. And that's why Russo featured those two, featured the Beautiful People and other... They were really drawing ratings for TNA.
So, I mean, compare that to... Here's the thing. It's not only it's a completely ridiculous, dangerous stunt for everybody involved, including the fans with the glass. How many people are there? Are we talking dozens? Like, in the audience?
I don't know, but I guess they feel like it's a bigger deal because there's a documentary about this being filmed.
Here's the other things, like, this is way more memorable than anything Gail Kim's done, which is laughable. But two, this isn't even memorable. Stevie watched it, his face didn't even change. It's like, Because we've all seen this loads of times. How many times can you do the same stupid thing? Or rough variations of said stupid stunt in front of nobody? And then it might go a bit viral on social media, and then people move on.
Oh, he's talking about basic thinkers in this next paragraph, isn't he?
Good. After you.
All right. Lauderdale later clarified his remarks and said that his comments were not because he dislikes Gail Kim. Rather, he shared his disappointment that Gail shares the same, quote, uninformed opinion that other pro wrestling personalities and deathmatch critics like Jim Cornette share. I'll let you take over the quote.
I don't dislike Gail Kim, and it's clear she's well liked by her peers. That's why it's so disappointing to see her echo the same uninformed. Let's circle that word. Tell a story, hot dog handshake, butter BS about death matches as old losers like Al Snow, Jim Cornette, and Dutch Mantel. She's better than that, them.
Ooh, where do we fit?
Honestly, I won't say what I'm going to say, but I'll tell you afterwards.
Am I an old loser? I want to know.
Oh, you could be.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
going to know. I'm going to know.
It's like calling.
And by the way, I would have drawn. I'm telling you right now, I would have been so much better during my wrestling career and drawn money and made more memorable moments if Al Snow, Jim Cornette, and Dutch Mantel were looking at me favorably and wanted to draw money. They would have booked me properly. Do you understand what I mean? These are people that have booked wrestling, that have booked storylines, been involved, made the moments. They're three of the most informed people you ever find in the wrestling business. Not uninformed.
Can you conceive of the brain so dehydrated and small and decimal point IQ to actually say uninformed of Al, Jim, Dutch, and Gail as well?
Who was working backstage at TNA as an agent for quite a bit, correct?
And it's like, how butthurt can you get over the most sane of criticisms that this is stupid and not memorable and a waste of time? And just because someone's documenting it, I saw a documentary about people who eat cars. Does that make it high art? No.
Eat what?
Eat cars. Or
Vehicles.
Here's another one. Marry cars. I saw a documentary on that. Just because... If you've ever heard of Louis Theroux's Weird Weekends, they were all documentaries. Doesn't make them more memorable, these wackos and nut jobs and sad sacks wanting to be... He did one on wrestling, in fact. On deathmatch people, in fact. But it is very, very reasonable to look at that and think, that's stupid. Doesn't make you uninformed. What is there to inform? What are we missing, Stevie, is what I'm saying?
Well, I've been asking that question a lot lately. What are we missing? But it just seems like there's this very, I guess, tribalistic kind of look at this. How many people are taking GCW and Brett Lauderdale's side and saying, obviously, the people that love death matches want to watch that kind of stuff, and that's fine. certain styles are not for certain types of people. Some people love the Bret versus Owen stuff. Some people love this deathmatch stuff. You can have anything you want in the world of professional wrestling. But that would have been much better than saying, I didn't think Gail Kim would like it or anybody that did that style because this is a different style. Everybody, both sides can be right and both sides can be made to look wrong in any kind of way with their tribe, with their particular people that will defend them to, pun intended, the death. I'm just looking at this like...
It's the condescending attitude. That's the thing. It's the condescending attitude.
No, it's gaslighting. It's more gaslighting. That's what it is. You're uninformed. And calling an ad hominem attack on three guys that have done way more positive things than anything close to negative in this business. Sometimes we lose sight of that, especially with Cornette. Or Dutch is old. Yeah, Dutch is old, but guess what? He's still doing a show with you. He still has the eye and the mind to be able to look at everything for what it is. He's still a booker at any advanced age, correct? Mm-hmm. Cornette's still a booker at his. Al Snow runs OVW and runs it like a business. I've never heard OVW popping up from time to time with the same kinds of stories. And obviously GCW had a story not too long ago that we covered during WrestleMania weekend. So, and lashing out saying that Gail Kim is wrong and these three guys are old losers, but then he says he likes Gail. That's the next quote here, correct?
Dude, yeah, like I'm presuming a grown man. Calling those three people losers, like specifically that word losers, is the kind of rhetoric from someone whose mother still makes their bed for them and does their laundry and whatnot. It's like, I can't conceive of the sort of arrested development kind of thing. And here's the other thing. If you like deathmatch wrestling, fine. It actually doesn't bother me, but you've got to watch deathmatch wrestling, once again, knowing that you are not watching, or listening to Fellini. You're not watching high art here. You're watching the most bargain basement crap in the world that takes zero talent at all. What did I wrote here? It's like a Paul Cézanne painting. It's and he's also saying like, oh, it's art. We're doing art. You're not. You can't criticize our art. I mean, I've heard this from a lot of indie wrestlers actually over the years. But the thing is, you're comparing a Rembrandt to outsider art by a serial killer smearing his own shit on a canvas. That's the difference. Yeah, you can still call them both art, but there are levels to it. There are levels of talent, there are levels of appreciation for it, and there's levels to it. And deathmatch wrestling is at the bottom of the rung, and the reason is because there is no talent required. You've got to have balls to do it. I mean, to jump from a great height or whatever, or you've got to be a complete idiot. But that's it. There is no talent required. Whereas if you're someone in the WWE, a Randy Orton, or a Will Ospreay, or a Bryan Danielson, or a Kenny Omega, or a John Cena, or a Brock Lesnar, or anyone, or a Kyle Fletcher, whoever it is, they all have levels of talent that far eclipses the best deathmatch wrestler. Do you know what I mean?
I think the operative word besides talent is skill.
Yeah.
Having skill. And you can do this all. I watched this clip, and I didn't even see it. You told me not to even look at it, not to click on the link. That was all done live. And I looked at it, and I was just like, okay. Now, what do you think fans are thinking? Fans might go out and see it, but I couldn't even tell you who it was. Maybe one of them was Matt Cardona. I don't know. I hope it wasn't, but he's been a part of some of that stuff at GCW. I don't want to see him get hurt. He's a great worker. But it's just, I mean, when you start, with Gail, it's whatever. The uninformed thing is kind of touchy and like, why would you say that? The outward, like, stray bullets that are being shot at did they comment on this? I'm sure Cornette did. But
Cornette did and Gail did. In fact, let me give you Gail's. In fact, actually, many people took issue with the last line of Lauderdale's original reply and dared them to name daring them to name a memorable Gail Kim match. This includes WWE NXT star Jordan Grace and TNA star Steph.
No, the dare was accepted and they answered, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Response: Gail Kim Irvin. I like you, Brett, as well. I said I would watch the documentary and give it a chance. I dislike death matches and always have. Like I've said before, wrestling is subjective. I also like Dutch, Jim Cornette, and Al. This is what's so great about debates and conversations. We can all have a say. That is the nicest reply she could have possibly come out with. Jim Cornette then responded, Gail, it's okay to tell the truth about death matches, the garbage wrestlers that do them, and the garbage jock sniffers like this one that promote them. You showed more talent in the ring in 15 minutes than any of these cretins in their lives. Don't watch. The smell of trash isn't subjective.
Well, Jim, tell us how you really feel. You can always count on that. You can go, I'm surprised. I'm really, is this Jim? I don't see one F-bomb in this. So, but you know what Jim did? He literally probably calmly wrote it. He probably knew if I F this, F that, they're going to lose the point. This drives the point home in just a very short paragraph. Right there. So what is Dutch? Has Dutch or Al commented about this?
No, I would have asked him, but I didn't see it yesterday. Or we'd already recorded by the time it was out.
I don't know why you hit them. I don't know why you hit them with a stray. I mean, Cornette's one thing because he's the antithesis, but it's still
because they're terminally online. That's what these people are. They're terminally online. Yeah,
but you're quote talking online through tweets or on social media directly with Gail, and it seems to be an exchange in a way. Thank God. I mean, she ignored it, but didn't ignore it by saying, "I also like Dutch, Jim, and Al." It's ridiculous that those are the three guys you're going to just outwardly just kind of like, there must have been something in the past where Brett had that in his back pocket that the three of them at some point had commented maybe about the Sabu stuff, maybe about, Matt Cardona with light tubes and all this other stuff. It could have been one or all of those things. And he kept that in his brain to kind of hit them because it seems a little misplaced if they hadn't commented on that previous. And I'm not aware, I'm not on social media. Maybe they said something about it. Rightfully so.
I think, would it be fair to wrap up this thought with, if you like deathmatch wrestling, great. But if you try and gaslight people into saying, one, that it's art, or two, that it isn't what it is, and basically a shortcut for people who aren't talented enough to do wrestling properly, or have some sort of like, because you get this in wrestling as well, like cutters, like the people who are like addicted to, bleeding and stuff like that. I mean, it's not even anything on the fans who enjoy this, and it's a small pocket of people who actually enjoy this. It really is. But if you like it, fine, but don't try and dress it up as something that's not, and don't try and make people try and belittle people for not understanding it. What's not to understand? It's right there.
Yeah, I've been pretty informed at this point in my life and after my 30 plus years of wrestling. And with the people, here's what they come out with. You were in ECW. Yes, I was. Did you see what I wore? Did you see some of the segments I was in? Sure. When it came time to be locked in a cage with Terry Gordy and get bloodied, when I had to be in a cage with Luna Vachon, at the culmination of months and months and months against the Pitbulls, we have a violent double dog collar match. 3. The three-way dance. I'm in there with Funk and Sandman. Of course they're going to throw me on trash cans and ladders. That's their thing. I'm in their world. I'm just surviving in that. Or as a heel, he's finally going to get his, and after opening his mouth and running for weeks and months, he's trapped in the cage. Where's the story on this? Now, what's the next thing? Well, there were 6 cars piled up. We got a pile of 20 now. Like, where do you go from here? I'm sure Cornette said that. I'm sure Gail thought that. I'm sure Dutch and Al will say that. Okay, great. How much higher? How many more light tubes? How much more barbed wire? And this is even not even the company. The CZW is the one that has like the king of the deathmatch tournament, right? there's no identity to this. Like, why did it happen? What was the storyline? Do I have to watch, enjoy the show? Do I have to enjoy the documentary? I'm asking real questions. If I'm an old loser too, you know what I want? I want to start a life match tournament where everybody comes out healthier afterwards. How's that?
Aha. Okay, there's one more thing. Stephanie McMahon, first WWE Hall of Fame 2026 inductee. She was named at WrestlePalooza. We talked about this off air.
Could you please do something, Chris, for me and tell me if it's okay, James? Are you a Dexter fan? Remember the show
No,
Dexter?
not really. I couldn't get into the first series. I watched a few.
I haven't watched. My favorite thing is the Sergeant Dokes. And he says,
"Surprise, motherfucker."
So I want when this happens, if we can put a sound clip or a pop-up like we do for Garea, where Sergeant Doak says surprise and you bleep out MFer, because this was the most planned, shocked surprise. I thought there was going to be 4 belts and 2 statues behind her when they announced it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I can't wait I want to fall asleep and wake up for the Hall of Fame next year.
So we all know that Triple H's was completely spontaneous, but do you think Stephanie McMahon's was...
How did you say that with a straight face?
Oh, easily. It's easily. I could be a newsreader, man. But Stephanie's, you're saying that was maybe acted and she actually knew. Here's the other thing. That was 7 months in advance. This has got to be the earliest in advance it's ever been for a Hall of Fame inductee.
I've never seen anything earlier than the week after the Rumble or at the Rumble. That's about the line, right?
Yeah, why couldn't they help themselves?
You tell me. I mean, that's probably the most interesting part of this whole surprise. This is the whole most interesting part is it's September. Like, what are we doing here? Dude, here's a thing, just a thought. Royal Rumble is in Saudi Arabia. Are they going to move the Hall of Fame to Royal Rumble this year? Well, you're talking about tradition, but Saudi tradition is going to trump this tradition.
And then they move it back the next year for WrestleMania 43, which is also in Saudi Arabia.
Then they'll bring the Hall. Did Saudi want the Hall of Fame? I don't think so, because unless you're inducting, are they going to induct Turkey into the Hall of Fame this year?
I didn't even think about
Sheik.
that. Yeah, Turkey Al-Sheikh or Al-Sheikh.
He likes that.
Yeah, you go sit next to The Undertaker because he likes that.
Turkey likes that.
Do you like
Enjoy
that?
The show.
Do you like that, Turkey?
Dude, are we looking at, you could be like, they can't do that. Well, they sure skipped over London for the WrestleMania.
Oh, and
Canada and all
New
these
Orleans. And New Orleans. Did you take us through the entire segment? Because this was almost the worst segment of the show. Because Undertaker was dying out there for like a minute. And then he started copying Triple H's "Are you ready?" Thing. And then, here's the thing. Nope. Right, you had Stephanie out there with the Undertaker. And I swear he should have just turned around and said, "Where to, Stephanie?" To the WWE Hall of Fame. That's where you're going. It's like, what a callback that would have been to 99.
He should have the big "This Is Your Life" and brought the cross out and everything,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. Symbol, not a cross.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you actually remember that furore?
Creative Liberty.
Yeah, do you remember that furore at the time? Goodness
Yes, I
me, it's not a
remember.
cross,
It was
it's
a
a symbol,
symbol.
pal.
Okay, I get that. Thank you very much for the gaslighting, everybody. Hey, came back for my match. Look. Hey, there you go. It's all you need. I watched it, and there's only 2 things I recognized. How much this wasn't a shock, wasn't a surprise, was go sit out there in the front row. Why? Oh, it's going to be a surprise. Oh, I love surprises. And then this. Without this. That was it's a strange thing. I wish that was the show. I wish that was on Unreal. All that stuff is the questions, the TKO stuff, what's going on here. Triple H brings the grandchildren to Vince's birthday party, but Stephanie's not there. Stephanie's out there getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, which my assumption is, and we talked about it, is Taker in charge of who gets into the Hall of Fame to some degree now? Did he take that over?
We didn't talk about this. So, but this is something that you said to me.
I just have the I have the hunch that he is. I don't know why. Why would Taker be the one to come out and not Triple H to say, you're part of the Hall of Fame? These things are very interesting and don't make sense.
So we watched, Stevie and I, we actually watched the video, because I only read about it. I never actually watched the video. And Undertaker says something very, very telling there. With Shawn Michaels, they're both on stage. They're in WWE or TKO. He is WWE's HQ, unless it's TKO's, whatever. And he says, as the most tenured guys here, we made an executive decision. So that does give credence, especially because Stephanie's in, Triple H is in, and Michelle McCool, The Undertaker's wife, is in the Hall of Fame. I suspect that that's actually true, that The Undertaker is the one, or maybe the lead of a committee at the very least, or part of a committee at the very least. He's choosing who goes into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that, because especially from WrestlePalooza, with him coming out and basically saying you're being inducted into the Hall of Fame, him speaking for, say, 90% of him and Shawn on the stage at the headquarters, saying that they made the executive decision to do that. Stephanie backstage, Stephanie could be involved with this. Could be Hunter, Stephanie, Taker, and Shawn. And you're saying part of a committee. Do you think anybody's going to counter what these people saying? Go, nah, dog, got to be next year. No. I was going to say, I know with all those people that are in charge, even half of those people, I know who's never getting the Hall of Fame.
Don't you find it just a bit depressing that, let's say this is the case, and let's say this is The Undertaker's first year or second year or whatever it is in the Hall of Fame. Basically, he's managed to induct his best friend, his boss or former boss, Stephanie McMahon, and his wife. It just, I know the TKO reign has basically been peppered with glad-handing and backslapping and self-fillating and all that kind of thing on every single show as much as they can. But boy, is it just coming, with Stephanie getting inducted as well now, they're just congratulating themselves constantly now.
I'm telling you right now, I remember I talked about the country club, kissing after every Raw pay-per-view and everybody in gorilla position wasn't on camera. Now it's on camera. Now they don't even care. They're letting you know it's literally, this is all friends and all family wrestling. We kid about AEW. That's what this is. You want to talk about trying to protect your spot. This person doesn't draw. There's a true glass ceiling. And the people holding on to the top spots up until WrestleMania 43 in Saudi are not even wrestling. Yeah, they're going to wrestle there. I still stand by that. But there is now a complete echo chamber. There was an echo chamber problem in wrestling before. It's too far gone. It's too far gone.
Does Stephanie McMahon deserve to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame? Now, not a facetious answer. I'm talking about a body of work on screen and as a writer.
Okay. Well, as a writer, she deserves to never be in the Hall of Fame. I'm serious. That should be in the Hall of Shame. So at the same time, we're going to take Vince out of the equation because he never wanted to be on it. No matter what happens with Vince, he never wanted it. Shane, by a mile, deserves it more than Stephanie for just the performance and the memorable moments in his matches and how he still could cut a promo. He still did what he did even way back in the corporate ministry days. Shane would deserve, and this just proves.
I've got a thing just to go for GCW. We were saying before, Shane did some crazy dives with protection. I mean, he wasn't wearing prophylactic or anything, but they had like a waterbed and soft landings and all that kind of thing.
Crash pads, yeah.
Crash pads. You remember every single one of his dives. Will you remember the GCW one?
But I remember his matches too. I remember him working. I remember him versus Vince at WrestleMania. I remember him, of course, eventually going through the glass at King of the Ring with Kurt Angle. The Steve Blackman getting hit with the kendo stick and falling off basically the Titantron. But I also remember Shane wrestling and, his spinning back elbow off the ropes, the coast to coast that Rob used to do through the trash can or the chair. He would do that. He wrestled Taker at WrestleMania, fell off Hell in a Cell. He wrestled The Miz, and they had a memorable WrestleMania match. I mean, you can cut those in half. It's still enough body of work where Shane deserves to be in the Hall of Fame long before Stephanie, way before Stephanie. But we are in the TKO political country club environment where everybody, and this just tells me Shane is not figured in. Shane is still the black sheep of the family that he's on the outside looking in.
Do you think Linda will get him before Shane?
That's an interesting question. I would say Linda might get him before Shane.
I'm just looking at which McMahons.
I think Trump will get in before Shane again.
Trump's already in. Second time.
The second one.
He's part of a group. The Republicans at large as a faction.
It's not political. It is political. I'm not talking about government politics. I'm talking about wrestling politics. It is not. This is what I hate about the Hall of Fame. I really, really hate it about the Hall of Fame because there's so many people that contributed in a real sense to the business and especially to WWF, WWE, but they just won't get in there based on feelings, personal reasons, or somebody just saying, he never drew. I've witnessed that as people were working and drawing and garnering interest. Here come the knives. And it's really not great to see. It's awful to see that the knives and the political nature and the political preference, or should I say, the political albatrosses that don't fit into their scheme are being punished.
Yeah,
and it's not even, there's not even a real building yet for this thing.
No, there isn't. I mean, they were saying for ages that it was going to be in, I don't know, the Performance Center. But they're moving the Performance Center.
Or Orlando
or something like that, yeah. Or in WWE HQ or wherever else it could be, and they've never even made it. But they've got loads of artifacts now. Hey, what's that A&E show? Like most like haunted treasures.
The treasures, thing? Yeah, the treasures,
yeah,
right?
something like that.
Hey, by the way, the Hall of Fame, it's whatever. Even if there's people getting in, it's still not a real competitive sport. So when they're reading off all these things that Hunter did, no, he got booked to win that stuff. Does it deserve it? He worked hard. It deserved the spots he got to a certain extent, but they could be heavily kind of speculated to be more political than achievements. The political achievements are there. So this is not me saying, well, you're never getting the Hall of Fame, so obviously you're bitter and you're around. I don't care. There's nothing. Paul Orndorff famously left his plaque and everything in the hotel room and he goes, I got paid, I got a nice dinner, and I went home. That's what most real workers think about. It's like getting the YouTube plaque, which is really small right now. What did I say to you? I only care about making this thing grow and make it into a full-time business. I'm not about just getting these. I have it all behind me and have the shrine. I got plenty of stuff.
Where's the BWO belt?
Hold on. I want everybody out there. If you know me by now, here's a little trivia. Where do you think this BWO belt was in my closet?
At the bottom.
It was underneath 3 cameras, my PS5 Pro remote controller, and a box for the key lights I just got. But it's beautiful, and I'm really blessed that somebody created this. This is very sentimental to a point, but I'm not a mark for it. I'm just like, that's cool. If anything, you know what I wanted to do with this belt? I wanted to actually auction this off. I have 2 of them and some other memorabilia to fund that cat rescue that actually donated money from the Patreon supporters for 1 month. Mm-hmm. That's what I want to do and do some good for it. So if you put me in a Hall of Fame, that's where the ring's going. What are your thoughts on it? I want your thoughts. Let's both get heat together.
No, your thoughts
please.
About the same. No, you know.
Oh, so you think she's like the obvious choice?
No, it's just there's people who are actually wearing. Well, I think I said this on my review show on my channel, and I just said, look, Stephanie was really good on screen for about a year, and then she disappeared, and then she was the GM, and then she was just there, and then she sort of went back to mousy Stephanie, and then she disappeared for years. Then she came back, and then she was the B+ player version of Stephanie McMahon with Triple H. that went
Oh,
on.
those authority promos that opened every show?
God.
Yes.
And people the first week, oh my God, Stephanie's back. This is so great. It's like, boy, are you going to be disappointed when this is every single week. It was pulling teeth. They made the show worse.
When you were reading this, or when you reacted, when I just passed it back to you, I said, what do you think? The look on your face is the same look I had when I was watching that deathmatch thing. Oh, of course. Like, yeah. Right? You had such a apathetic, monotone. Okay. What are you excited about?
Well, there's nothing to be excited about.
There you go.
It's like, man, do you remember all these memorable moments? No, the most memorable thing was when Chris Jericho used to, say all those rude things about her and her reaction. But once again, the Stephanie McMahon thing is, she was great in the early days when Vince McMahon was basically directing. And at some point, he got so overprotective of Stephanie that it went from she would get a comeuppance every single week to she would never get a comeuppance. And then all she is this just oppressive, looming figure with every wrestler under her thumb every single week.
She slapped multiple wrestlers every single week, and they never got any heat back on her.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
I remember someone once, years ago, when I said that, I was like, oh, didn't you watch that WrestleMania when da-da-da-da-da? And I was like, what you mean where she like tripped and fell over on her own steam and it happens once every 2 years? Vince McMahon, you couldn't get enough heat on that guy or make him look stupid enough. And he got better every week because of it. Stephanie McMahon just, I don't know, someone started taking her character too seriously. Whether it was her, whether it was Vince, or whether it's Triple H saying, no, you shouldn't be doing all these things and you should be stronger and more important and more indestructible than everybody else kind of thing as far as a character point of view. And
you knew once he made her writer, once he made her head writer, there's no way he could fire her at that point. And he may have even been quoted to a couple people that, what can I do? Why he would be made, it's his little girl. So what do you do at that point?
Yeah, so basically just makes for a worse atmosphere. Anyway, okay, we do have to do the outro because apart from the fact my voice is failing me, it is nearly 5 o'clock and I'm starving because I've not had much lunch. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. This was meant to be under 2 hours. I text Stevie and I said, this has to be under 2 hours, Stevie. No ifs, ands or buts. Here we are, 3 hours later. And this podcast, this has been 3 hours. And he was going to film something and insert it after the fact, right?
Yes.
He wasn't going to film inserting it after the fact, you know what I mean? But anyway.
Come to the content creation dark side.
Oh, man.
Come on.
We're turning into Cornette. We're turning into Pritchard, man. We're just doing these omnibus podcasts. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I thought we were all
losers. I thought you were saying we're all losers.
Yeah, we are that as well. Not really. So, we're out every single Friday, a new clip on YouTube every single day. Please support us not only on YouTube, but also the podcasts as well. You can hear these. I know the 5 Moves of Doom thing probably didn't work out as well on audio that it should have done, but we did cut out the turnbuckle spot, the front turnbuckle bump thing with Brett as well that was also visual. But anyway, once again, thank you so much for watching, everybody. We'll be back next Friday. Stevie, over to you to thank especially our Patreon supporters.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching episode 65 this week, and thank you for all the support. We're growing with subscribers and everything. About to hit 138,000 subscribers as we were recording that. We might have hit it during the recording because it was actually so long, according to James. But I want to thank you. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing, clicking the bell, get notified, and we really appreciate all the interaction. Leave a comment below. We just broke 138,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
we literally just did it as we're recording it. That's awesome.
138,028.
Aha!
So there we go.
I can't do that 138,000 times, but I'll try. If you watch, if you comment and subscribe enough, I'll give it a shot. But we especially want to thank everybody at patreon.com/Stevie Richards. Remember, a new watch along every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Show notes, pre-show, and of course, you'll get boggled down with me upgrading and reconfiguring a home studio, all sorts of premium content, and we try to give the best value for our Thank You Brother tier and also our producer tier. Thank you so much for the support here on YouTube, all podcast platforms, patreon.com/Stevie Richards. We do appreciate it. Thank you so much. See you next week for episode 66. Aha.
Fan questions.
Aha.
Fan questions. I'll make
Fan
a post.
questions.
I'll make a post
questions.
on the community board. What was the community board on YouTube, and solicit questions for next week. So keep an eye out for that as well.
Yes.
sorry.
Thank you
Aha.
again.
Aha.
You got in the middle of my aha. 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 And. I'll lick my biceps. Aha.